Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful and snowy British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adamazen. Yeah, it is very snowy out there.
More so in your bit.
Yeah, but it was, yeah. I did do smash and grab in your neighborhood, and it was snowy a little bit there too.
I mean, I live in East Van. There's a lot of smash and grabs in East Van. You might want to clarify what you're talking about there before the police get involved. But
I have a buddy who had he's a Lego certified professional. His name's Robin. So people in the Lego community will know Robin. But he had a display at what was the name of the store? It's in the Pacific Center. Holt's?
Oh, Holt Renfrew.
Yeah, Holt Renfrew. That's it.
Whoa, that's like the expensive exclusive store.
So they had him build a big thing for Lunar New Year, for Chinese New Year. So he built a Year of the Snake.
Cool.
Snake thing, yeah. So Kirk and I went, and he was getting on a plane to go to Billund to do some Lego stuff. So
when you walked Holt Renfrew, did they look at you like, why are you riffraffing here?
Yeah, no, it was after hours.
The one time I went, I felt they were watching me the whole time. I went to buy some biscuits.
No, we were dealing with Betty, and we were there after hours, and yeah, it was.
Oh, well,
they were great. They were great. She was great. It was great, and it was fun to help them out. But the way there wasn't too bad. The way home was treacherous.
Yeah.
But only. Treacherous for Lower Mainland. Like I grew up in Ontario. I went to school in Regina. Like. This would have been like another day in Regina, but.
Well, my dog Annie enjoyed it this morning, so that.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
She's like, hey, we don't get this in Mexico. I mean, it's been an interesting week. We've got a lot to talk about on the show. We're going to be joined by our good friend Harjeet Johal to chat about the whole Stuart Armstrong transfer, and
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, the fun times as well. Fun. Maybe not for her, how that one played out. He's off to Sheffield. He's off to a Sheffield club just now. Let's just keep it vague, just in case it changes by the time we record that again. We've got a couple of feature interviews for you. We're going to speak to new Whitecaps signing, only Whitecaps signing, Jayden Nelson. We'll sit down with him. We also have a good exclusive chat with Canadian men's head team coach Jesse Marsch. And we'll talk Whitecaps news of the week, big CPL news of the week for a local lad as well. And if we've got time, because I do feel this show is going to be over 3 hours if we don't rein it in, we'll talk some other stuff as well. We'll have lots of good music along the way. We'll have some of our fun food segments along the way as well. So yeah, a lot to get into. And I normally start by asking how your week has been, but we'll curtail that. We can maybe chat a little bit at the end for some stuff, because I actually do want to talk about some football related stuff to kick off the intro before we get into any of that other stuff. And Hot Chocolate Boy, which of course will be coming up as well. Don't worry about that. The snow did not stop us doing that. But yeah, the big news in Canada this week, of course, is the tariffs, the trade war with the US. And the tariffs have been introduced by the US to Canadian goods and Canada has introduced tariffs of 25% for American goods. Now, it has a knock-on effect for our show, Zach, I've got to say. So, moving forward, any US listeners, our show is 25% longer. And, I mean, I feel that's punishment enough, and that should make Trump back down. No one wants 25% more AFTN Soccer Show.
Oh, my.
Interestingly, though, we were going to talk about tariffs in this part, and then Rick Westhead sent a tweet out today that I thought, this ties in nicely with what I was actually going to talk about. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I'll paraphrase it. He put it out this afternoon. Basically, the loonie fell today to the lowest it's been since 2003, 0.678 Canadian US exchange rate. Now, the lowest it's ever been was in 2002, which was 618. So it's not a kick off that. Worrying times, and it's going to affect sport. And that's what Rick Westhead's post is basically about. He's talking about the NHL teams, but I want to talk about the soccer aspect of this as well. Because obviously there are 3 Canadian teams playing in an American league. Their salaries are paid in American dollars. So that is also going to have an impact. It's going to cost the Canadian owners more. And when you've got a club like the Whitecaps up for sale, that is not what you want of more expense. When you're also a club like the Whitecaps that is looking to bring in some more players, that is also not an expense. If you're maybe wanting to bring in a DP that you're wanting to go too high salary-wise because it's going to be costing you more. So Rick's tweet today had said that it's going to affect teams because of that across Canada. He says the biggest impact, though, may be at the gate, as customers are less likely to spend discretionary income on sports and other entertainment during uncertain economic times. He talked as well about higher steel costs that could affect construction plans for OHL teams in Ottawa. And this little interesting tidbit of Vancouver's MLS team, which is now for sale, may move to the US without a new publicly funded stadium, a person familiar with the matter told me. And he finishes by saying executives with some leagues and Canadian national sport organisations tell me they also have concerns that if tensions further ratchet up, the US government may limit the number of visas it grants to Canadian pro and amateur athletes who compete, train and study in the US. Now, obviously, to many people, that the tariffs, that's not their prime concern just now, but we are a football show, so we want to talk about that. It is a genuine concern as to what impact that can have. It definitely salary-wise, because the Whitecaps, TFC Moronto, I've merged them already, Montreal, they are paying in US dollars. So that is going to have a big impact.
Yeah, this is all an interesting time in the world. It's been a while since we talked politics for fun on the show, but it definitely is going to be interesting to see how this plays out, not just for Canada, but the world as a whole, I think, with the way in which the new American approach to international trade. So I hope it does not kind of hurt the sport of football in particular in Canada. I hope, in particular, as we were talking about this, Michael, I hope it doesn't impact anything with the World Cup here. What I'm thinking of. Now, I don't know how that would play out, but I just hope.
Well, we don't know how this is going to play out in the next year. I mean, that's the scary thing just now, because there's a few other things we'll talk about, and there's a lot of hostility in Canada just now towards America, and understandable. The anthems at 4 different sporting events in Canada this weekend, so the American anthem booed. Now, I am all for that, and I know it's a bit of a no-no here in North America, especially Canada, that you don't boo the anthems. Now, it's something that's commonplace in Europe. I've been to Scotland-England games where you can't hear the band playing the English anthem, even on the TV, because of how loud the boos have been at Hampden.
Wow.
And it works both ways as well. The English fans have booed the Scottish anthem and stuff as well. I mean, to me, it is something you can do at a sporting event that is the maximum disrespect to the other country. But for it to happen in Canada, I don't remember in my time here, and obviously it's not too long, 15, 16 years, whatever it's been, of really hearing about that before.
Well, I think it's happened a little bit in the MLS era. I'm pretty sure.
It's going to be interesting to see how things ratchet up. Here's a fun fact. The 3 Canadian teams, the first of those teams that will play an American team on Canadian soil are the Whitecaps when LA Galaxy come to visit. Now, I think it would be wonderful if the tifo that day from the supporters was to have a go at the tariffs and Trump and everything like that. Not for me to say. Don't like to put ideas into people's heads.
The only problem with that, though, is that they're technically not supposed to be doing political things, right?
Technically not.
Now, obviously, some political things have been stopped in the past, and some political things, there's still. I think there's like ongoing banners that hang up political things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one that always stands out to me is the women's right to choose one. With the uterus, that's kind of looks like it's giving
I mean, it's superb that they're doing it. It's like, yeah, you're not going to tell us what to do. We're going to hang this.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I'm surprised that MLS hasn't.
I don't know if they haven't clued in or whatever. But I mean, it would be nice to see that happening since it's the first game. I mean, it's still weeks away, so anything can happen in that time. The tariffs could be gone by then. But if it's not, like we've spoken about the anthems before, I don't think they should be playing anthems at club games in a domestic league.
I'm with you.
Either you stop it, or you just play the Canadian one, or if you're going to play both, I'm totally fine if it's booed out the building.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm all for that.
Turn your back to it as well, boo, whatever. It's tough for the anthem singers, obviously, to have the fans then booing what you're doing, but then raucously sing the Canadian one and give respect to the anthem singer that way. So there's that aspect as well.
I think Maria Huey would understand.
Yeah, I think they would. I mean, if everyone was kind of warned beforehand, I think they all would fully understand. They've got a really good quartet of anthem singers at the Whitecaps these days as well. Now, you've got other things as well. And if they restricted visas, I mean, it's been a battle to get any Canadians recognised domestically on American teams. And now it's only if they've come through an academy system here in Canada that they can be a domestic. So that could get taken away. But another interesting...
That won't get taken away. I mean, USL has done Canadians as domestic for forever. So,
well, you say it won't get taken away, but Trump could say, no Canadians can be counted as domestics in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not... I mean, they've got more important fish to fry, you would imagine, but...
You would.
The other thing as well, of course, is travel. And we spoke about this after Trump got in. How will it affect Canadians travelling down there? Now, you're already seeing the stories. A lot of Canadians are cancelling trips. I'm going down for Portland's home opener. I'm going down for the Portland game, the season opener. Now, I've got that booked and it's non-refundable.
Oh, right.
So I can't cancel. Otherwise, I'm punishing myself and I'm costing myself money. So I'm going to that. Will that be my last trip for a while? Very possibly. I'd hope to go down to Club World Cup games, hope to go down to the Seattle games, just trips to Trader Joe's. But I mean, I'm one of the many people that's thinking about, well, do I want to spend my money down there? And we'll see how things kind of ramp up as well. But on the whole, will this see fans just boycott going down there? You're then not giving the team support, but you totally understand why, especially for local derbies in Cascadia. And who knows, there could be things introduced at the border as well that make it trickier even for Canadians to cross the border. Maybe they'll make them, like as a UK passport holder for years, I had to get an ESTA. It cost, I can't remember, like $40 or something for 2 years. And it was just like pre-approval for travelling to the US.
Was that green thing you used to have?
It was the green thing, but then it switched to an ESTA. So the green thing, every time I went over, I had to pay like $6 or $8 for that.
Right.
So actually, I think I still had to do that even with the ESTA. Yeah, I did.
Can
The
you,
ESTA was just pre-approval, and then I still
can,
had to pay for the green thing in my.
can you not use your Canadian passport now, or do
Oh no, I
you?
can. Yes, for me that's fine. But they could introduce that for Canadians as well and say, well, if Canadians want to come down, then you're going to have to get a visa to travel down. So you don't know how this is going to escalate, but it could have a big impact. And Nations League coming up as well. There's going to be a lot of Canadians that were wanting to go down for that. And will that now make them question whether they want to go down and spend money in the US?
Yeah.
Interesting times. Let us know your thoughts on it all. Let us know how you think the tariffs might impact the Whitecaps and just in MLS in general. We'll get more into the football chat in a bit. Happier stuff in some regards, not some other regards. But before any of that, I think it's time to lighten the mood, Zach. It's time for this episode's Hot Chocolate Boy and Girl.
Hot chocolate boy, he's never had one. Hot chocolate bad one, hot chocolate boy.
Another week, another Hot Chocolate Boy, and we've got a special guest for this week's show because joining me this week, it's Hot Chocolate Girl, my wife, Caitlin. Welcome to the section. Welcome back to the show, Caitlin.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
That isn't what you said before we started recording, but we'll keep the pretense going amongst the listening public because we've only managed to get out to one visit to the festival this week. We had hoped to do another one. The snow kind of derailed that on Sunday, and it wasn't even the visit that we had planned. We had planned to go to Chez Christophe, place we've been to before, place we love. We go regularly over the year to there. And their second offering for the festival was something we were looking forward to. So we went there Saturday afternoon, only to find that they were sold out. So we had to go to another one. We went to the closest one to it. Was on our list, but was a bit lower down the list. But we both had different things. So that's going to allow us to have two different thoughts for it. So it's like two different drinks for the Hot Chocolate Festival. We went to Cafe Artigiano. I'm sure many of you will know Cafe Artigiano. They've got locations throughout the Lower Mainland, Vancouver, North Vancouver. They're out in Langley as well. Burnaby. It is the place that Zach and his family are also going to pay a visit to before this one ends. So two different hot chocolates on offer by Cafe Artigiano. I had offering number 10, the orange creamsicle hot chocolate. Caitlin had number 9, the hazelnut praline hot chocolate. So we'll kick off with that one. So yeah, you had the hazelnut praline hot chocolate. It's a dark hot chocolate with roasted hazelnuts, topped with silky vanilla cream, decadent chocolate shavings, and a crunchy praline crumble, paired with a warm, freshly made beignet filled with luxurious chocolate hazelnut cream. How do you find that description? How did you find your hot chocolate?
Well, to be honest, I found it a little bit disappointing. The description says it was paired with a warm, freshly made beignet. It definitely wasn't warm, and I was expecting a little bit of a bigger donut than it was. It was kind of maybe golf ball sized, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, when you came to the table with the cups, because also they're served in to-go cups as well. I think just because of the intricacy of trying to get the shavings and the hazelnut rim around it as well. I was expecting bigger. We'll come to my treat in a sec as well. But, I mean, yours would have been warm if you dipped it in the hot chocolate, I guess.
I guess so, but that, wasn't what I expected based on the description. And also, the amount of filling in the donut itself was like barely there. There was like the smallest amount of chocolate hazelnut cream, so that was disappointing. I think maybe it was the treat that kind of disappointed more than the hot chocolate itself. I think I enjoyed the hot chocolate, even though I'm not a huge fan of like piles of whipped cream. It did look really decadent. It did look really nice, and I did enjoy the kind of rim of hazelnut and the hazelnut chocolate around the edge of the cup, even though it probably would have been better had it been served in an actual ceramic coffee cup.
Yeah, I tasted a little bit of yours, and I'm just discovering my love for hazelnut. I've hated hazelnut for years, but all of a sudden, thanks to a jar of Nutella that you got free, I have discovered a love for hazelnut cream. But yeah, when you brought it to the table, they both looked lovely. They were great. Now mine, the orange creamsicle hot chocolate. It's a rich orange-infused hot chocolate, finished with a dreamy creamsicle chantilly and a touch of freeze-dried orange peel for a zesty finish. Perfectly paired with a crisp orange chocolate wafer, featuring a signature Artigiano chocolate stamp. Now, when I see that I'm getting a wafer, I think I'm getting something like a Voortman's waiver, so an actual waiver thing, because to me, in my head, my Scottish head, that's what a waiver is. This was more like an ice cream waiver that just had a little bit dipped at the top in chocolate. To me, the treat on mine was very disappointing, and I wouldn't recommend it just on the treat alone. The hot chocolate itself, though, was delicious. I love chocolate orange. Get me a Terry's chocolate orange every Christmas and I'm a happy boy. So I do love chocolate orange. It's one of my favourite flavours. I like chocolate mint as well. And this was very orangey. It was perfect. It had a nice freeze-dried orange segment as well that was delicious. They had some nice little sprinkles on the top as well to give it an orange flavour. So it was definitely good. I think my hot chocolate as well was a little bit hotter than yours.
Yes, as throughout the majority of the hot chocolate festival so far, I've found that most of the hot chocolates have just been kind of lukewarm or tepid and not actually hot, except for one of the offerings that we experienced, which was at Parallel 49th and Lucky's Donuts, which was actually hot.
Yeah, and I mean, that is something that certainly puts you off a little bit. And the cost of it, though, it was reasonable for, like, the ones we've been to so far, they've ranged from $9 to $14. And the cost of this one, Caitlin?
It was a reasonable $9.75. So I think, for that price, it was okay, but still, on the pricey side, but also on the cheaper end of what we've had so far.
Would you recommend it? That's what the listeners want to know.
I'd have to say out of the 4 that I've had so far this festival, it would be number 4. So take from that what you will.
I mean, I've had 5. I've probably got it at number 5 as well. And for me, it was let down really by a bit of a disappointing pairing, the treat that went with it. So we'll be back with some more offerings next week. But thanks to everyone that's been sending me pictures of theirs as well. Felipe's been out at a couple. He's sent me a lot through, including a very green matcha one. I'm not a big fan of matcha, I have to say. Also want to thank Gail and Brendan. They've been to a couple. They've given me some good recommendations. They were out at Cassandra Cake Company in Port Coquitlam and had a fantastic red velvet vino one. Red wine reduction hot chocolate served with a delicious looking red velvet cake as well. Also, a shout out to Rich Halland. He went to Bjorn Bar's Totally Bananas Over You for the Hot Chocolate Festival. With a tip, it was just under $10. Says not huge, but hot and delicious. Peanut butter cookie was amazing. That was the last day of it though, on Friday. I'd heard someone else had gone, they didn't enjoy it because, again, it wasn't hot, but Rick certainly enjoyed his. So keep them all coming. I love to see these pictures, love to get your recommendations, and let's see where next week takes us on Hot Chocolate Boy.
Every girl yelling, wanting him to be the terror. Hot chocolate boy, he's a sensation. Hot chocolate nation, hot chocolate boy.
And I guess we should probably really get into the football chat now, since we have so much to go over in this episode of the show. So let's kick things off in this part. We'll look at the Whitecaps news of the week. Apart from the big one, we'll keep the Stuart Armstrong transfer for the next part when Har will be joining us. But the Whitecaps have had another couple of pre-season games in the books. The Caps played Irish Premier League side St Patrick's Athletic in Marbella on Wednesday, January 29th. Now, the Dublin side are in pre-season themselves at the moment, with their new season getting underway on Valentine's Day. The teams played out a 1-1 draw, and St Pat's opened the scoring 8 minutes in through an Aidan Keena header. And the Whitecaps had to wait until the 92nd minute before a Damir Krylak penalty tied things up. Whitecaps had dominated possession, had an effort cleared off the line, a Krylak goal ruled out for offside, which they dispute whether that should have been or not. And once again, players got a half each. No Jayden Nelson or Brian White in this one, as they had just joined up with the team, but we're to see both of them in action for different amounts of times. In the second game, which was against Ukrainian top-flight side FC LNZ Cherkasy, that one played on Sunday in Marbella, and a very strong performance from the Whitecaps in this one. LNZ sit 10th in the Ukrainian Premier League, 24 points off Dynamo Kiev at the top, just 3 points above the relegation places after 17 games. And it was a solid, good 2-0 victory for the Whitecaps in this one. They dominated the play, both the goals coming in the first half. Just 3 minutes in, Ali Ahmed whipped in a good cross to the back of the box, picked out Sam Arakugbe, who cut it back for a low, out-swinging curler from Pedro Vite through a crowd of players into the bottom corner. Probably a shot that shouldn't have gone through so many players, but keeper clearly didn't see it till late, and it nestled lovely into the far corner. And that lead was doubled 7 minutes later when Ryan Gauld was brought down in the box by the keeper after a questionable first touch from Gauldy. Picked himself up though, dispatched the penalty. Keeper did get a hand to it, but the power from Gauld took it past him. That was to be the end of the scoring, but the Whitecaps certainly did dominate. Ranko Veselinovic had a header off the bar. Brian White saw his effort saved on the line by the keeper in the first half. And it was a different amount of game time for this one, with the starters getting an hour. Not sure how much we can read into that, the starting lineup for Saprissa in a couple of weeks. Jayden Nelson got his first run out in a Whitecaps jersey, almost got his first goal as well within 10 minutes of coming on. Yohei Takaoka played the full game in goal for the Caps, had a huge save later on as well to keep it as a 2-0 scoreline. So all in all, a nice afternoon in the sunny office for the Whitecaps. The team will wrap up their pre-season camp and matches against Swedish side IF Brommapojkarna on Thursday, February 6th. Kick-off for that one set at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So Zach, thoughts on those two pre-season matches? It's still hard to kind of read too much into it, but a win and a draw is at least showing signs of progression. Good to see some goals as well. Players getting some time on the pitch as well. Jayden Nelson getting his time on the pitch, nearly scoring. Brian White as well. So progression, which is what you're wanting from pre-season.
Yeah, I mean, from the highlights that we've seen, right, that was just limited. You only get a glimpse into what's going on. But yeah, some encouraging signs. I did like that little dribble and shot from Jayden. Some encouraging signs there. Scoring a couple penalties, Gauld, and it's always good to see Krylak score, right? Like they need that, right?
Yeah.
You need him contributing, and so
even just for his confidence, just like, I can still do this. And
that was right at the death, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he did have the offside goal as well, so
right, yeah.
I mean, there's that as well.
Encouraging signs going forward, and at the back. I mean, the goals weren't. I mean, they're preseason goals against. None of them were like, oh, that's something I'd be worried about.
Yeah,
on an ongoing basis. And the other thing that I think is encouraging, and again, this is just Axel's perspective, but I know we're going to talk about this more later. But as he was talking with Sarita this week, he talked about how he's happy that in the preseason they've kind of dominated the games. Mm-hmm. I know he was talking about these two specifically. Was he talking about the first one as well? Because even though they lost that, I don't think they.
I don't think they dominated that. I mean, they had spells. Obviously, they came out fast in that one, but no, anyway. I mean that's encouraging too. Another interesting thing. Last little bit on the preseason games. So, as I mentioned, today the starters all got an hour. And then the subs got half an hour. Yohei Takaoka, though, played all 90. obviously the talk at the end of last season from Vanny was he had his 1A, 1B. I don't know, does this solidify Yohi? Or do we see Isaac maybe playing the whole 90 in the last game, in which case everything's up in the air. But it did feel that this is maybe pretty close to what the team's going to be against Saprissa.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. It's also not surprising that with a new coach that for your keeper, it's the experienced guy who they go with first.
Yeah.
But that'll be interesting to see if anything in that changes over the course of the early part of the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, in other Whitecaps news this week, it was confirmed on Tuesday that the Whitecaps won't be fighting on 4 fronts this season, and they won't be taking part in the 2025 edition of the League's Cup. Mostly delighted with that, although, as you know, I do love cup competitions, so there's that small inkling of regret. The format was confirmed, and what we had speculated on a few shows back after all the rumours that it is a competition that's going to see 18 MLS teams compete and 18 Mexican teams compete, and those 18 MLS teams are indeed the top 9 in each conference, apart from the Whitecaps, because the Whitecaps are in both the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Canadian Championship, and taking part in the 3 cup competitions was deemed too much. So they are obviously more concerned with going for the 4-peat in the Canadian Championship, as they should be, and have been replaced by San Diego in the League's Cup to reduce fixture overload. Sensible. I think a welcome relief for the players. Fans seem very indifferent to it. And it's a very convoluted League's Cup qualifying system that they've got this year, and I'm not even going to go into it. Don't need to take any interest in it. Whitecaps aren't in it, so I'm sure I'll watch some of the games, but ultimately, do not give a toss. Now, the break will mean that after the Whitecaps' home game against Sporting Kansas City on July 26th, they have 13 days off before their next MLS fixture. Now, interestingly, I have heard chatter that there's been a push from some clubs, especially CPL and League One teams, to have some of the Canadian Championship games played at weekends, just to get bigger crowds in. So I do wonder if we might see the Caps schedule the second leg of their quarter-final against TSS or Valor, or the first leg of their semi-final in that time and play on August 2nd.
I think for the Voyageurs Cup, it would be great for some of those matches to be held on weekend dates in terms of making them more accessible for people to get to. That would be encouraging. I know, obviously, it's a cup competition and it's predominantly midweek, or for most of its existence, I think it's been holistically midweek. And that's kind of how the cup is in most parts of the world. But it has been a struggle in Canada to get the Voyageurs Cup attendance to where we all think it could be and should be. I share your happiness and that the Whitecaps aren't in the League's Cup. And yeah, you're right. It might open a little bit of a window for at least one of their games, maybe in the V's Cup to land, on a Saturday, which could make for a much better gate, a much better atmosphere, and just something more meaningful for the competition. It'll be interesting to see, though. It would be nice to see if that could be done across the competition, right? Because you could argue.
Well, I mean, TFC's not in the League's Cup either, but it's like, who knows how far they'll be going in the Canadian Championship with the draw that they've got.
Exactly. Because you could argue, too, that a club that gets to play on a Saturday, MLS or CPL or whoever, that gives them an advantage, no? Like, they get a better crowd, more vocal support. It's maybe one of those more intangible type things, but yeah.
I guess we'll kind of see. That is it for this part. Mentioning her, she's going to join us now in the next part as we look at the big Whitecap story of the week, the transfer of Stuart Armstrong to Sheffield Wednesday. But we'll be back chatting about all of that after a special song by a friend's band from Fife.
Hi, I'm Stuart Armstrong, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of Beautiful, British Columbia. And kicking off this part, I thought it was apt to play this song. It's a friend of mine, Chunky, and his band Perfumed Galaxy. They're from Methil and Leven in Fife. And that is a song from their only release, their only EP that was released in 1994. Heaven Sent. They were a previous band called The Circle Line, but as soon as I heard some news this week, this song popped in my head, thought I had to play it in the show. Perfume Galaxy, Sheffield, 12-incher. Now, another thing with that song, Zach, as well, is it uses some Fife slang, and I'm sure it's some slang that you don't know about. If I was to say to you, oh, you're winching, or, oh, are you winching her? But she's mentioned in the song. Do you know what that is?
No, I've never winched her ever.
You have. You've winched Cher.
Okay. I'll take your word for
Date.
Oh,
Court. Okay. It's an old Fife thing. It's like, oh, we're winching. So if you're going out with a girl, you're winching. And of course, the reason we're playing that is Stuart Armstrong has headed off to Sheffield. The 12-incher part I can't talk about because we've never done our teammate section, so I don't know if he was the longest in the shower. But he's Scottish, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But the real meaning is it's talking about a knife and a 12-inch blade. And it's not the blades that Stuart Armstrong is going to. It's the other Sheffield team. No, not Sheffield FC, Sheffield Wednesday. We're going to talk about all of that in this part. And to join us to talk about that, welcome back to the show, our good friend, Har.
Hi, Zach. Hi, Michael. Lovely to see you on this snowy Sunday afternoon.
Yes, it's going to be a hoot as we talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm recording upstairs, and downstairs I have an owl behind me. That's our clock is an owl, which would have been very fitting, but we are upstairs recording this afternoon in the snow. But yeah, this part, we're going to talk about the Stuart Armstrong debacle. The news broke on Wednesday night. It was confirmed on Friday. The club has transferred Scottish midfielder Stuart Armstrong to English Championship club Sheffield Wednesday. The main reason being given is that he wanted to be back in the Premier League again. And this move gives him the chance to get there, albeit a bit of a convoluted way to get there. We'll come to all of that. Also, there's been questions about whether his family were settled here with a newborn and no family support. And let's bring you in right away because you broke the news. You got the scoop. Then, I mean, you had 3 scoops really on Wednesday
Yeah.
night.
That's a big bowl of ice cream.
I know. I mean, I've only done that once, which was in Coombs in the island, because 3 scoops in Scotland are very different to 3 scoops in North America of ice cream. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
When I ordered my 3 scoops, the ice cream place in Coombs said, no one's ever ordered 3 scoops before. That's something Caitlin and me talk about regularly. But anyway, you mentioned, you broke the news, he was going to Wednesday, then he was going to United, then he was going back to Wednesday, although he was never going to United. You've wanted to come on and explain what happened, especially because English football fans aren't the most tolerant of mistakes, as you learned.
Yeah, they're not the most, they're not the most sensitive or polite in regards to transfers and mixing up teams and their arch rivals, as I found out a lot.
Explain how it all played out.
All right, I got a tip from a source saying that Armstrong was going to be transferred to Sheffield Wednesday. So I quickly wrote it off. I sent it off to editor to get it run at Canadian Soccer Daily. And then it ran, I think, around 9 o'clock on the Wednesday, maybe a bit before 9. I'm like, oh, this is blowing up. This is doing good. Nice work, me. And then about 11:15 p.m., I get in touch with the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps reach out because obviously they were asleep in Spain. I did reach out to them and say, hey, you got a comment? Can you provide a quote? Well, they were obviously asleep. I did reach out to somebody with the Whitecaps that was in Vancouver. Still have not heard back from that person. So I hear from the Whitecaps, and then they want to send me some information to maybe add to my article. I'm like, sure, what is it? And they're like, well, maybe you want to look at the club. And I'm like, what about the club? And I'm like, well, it's United. And then I was like, oh, I got to change this. This is awful. So then I alert the people back in Toronto who are half asleep because it's gone about 2 a.m. there. They were like, okay, we'll fix it. We'll change it. So then they take the original tweets and socials down, and they edit it, fix it so it says United. We put that out there. And then by this time, it's about midnight, just finishing my dinner. And then the people in the UK, England are waking up. And then they're seeing it. Well, is it United? Is it Sheffield? Oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. They should find another job. Some journalist she is. So then they're having a go. And then I reached out to some folks that cover Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United across the pond. And they're like, no, he's not going to United. I'm like, well, yeah, he is. I got several sources that says United. And then...
And they're telling you, well, Sheffield United are saying he's not coming here.
Yeah, they were telling me, no, I've talked to Sheffield United. He's not coming here. And I'm like, what? So then I reached out to the Whitecaps. Didn't hear nothing. And at 1:30 a.m., yeah, it was Wednesday, Sorry, so sorry. So I'm like, oh, double correction. Folks in Toronto are still asleep, middle of the night. And so I'm in bed, can't sleep, obviously. Phone's going nuts, berserk. I had to apologize to the journalists because I told them they were wrong several times, as you know.
Yeah. She was very adamant, Zach, that the guy that had spoken to Sheffield United was wrong.
Yeah, he didn't like that. So then, yeah, just lots of people online having to go, oh, it's banter. Oh, it's just having, conversation. I'm like, it's not. Like, it's really awful that you would say that. And just people think that I genuinely screwed up the teams. They don't realize that I don't pull information out of my keister, like people with sources high level.
Sometimes you do.
No, I don't.
I know.
So people provide information, and then you're like, okay, is this person credible? Is this solid? And then when the club is giving you the wrong teams, like, well, what am I supposed to do? Go to the club? The club's the one that mixed up the teams. And so it was just, I couldn't sleep. And then about 4:30 a.m., I see my phone going off. It's the folks in Toronto, and they're like, lots of expletives, and then they had to recorrect it, double correct it, and then they put out a kind of a statement or a clarification saying we got information from the team at 1:30, and then people still had to go, and then it was just kind of not fun. They are brutal fans. They are I don't know what they do for fun over there, but it's not it's not for going for walks or like picking flowers over there. It's like
no, it's having a go on social media. It's that's the UK way.
That's the national pastime.
Yeah,
folks don't realize how the information came to be, or the how we double check to see if it's accurate, because the club always says, come to us if you have a question or if you want to confirm something, which we sometimes do. And so I was talking to someone the other day on Friday, went out for a few beverages, and they were saying, oh yeah, I saw Michael's tweet saying it was United, and they had thought that you were the one that first put United out there. And I'm like, no. Where do you think Michael got that from? Where do you think Asa got that from? Where do you think Manuel got that from? Me. The same people at the club. So it wasn't just me getting stuff online.
It was a fun
Asa
Wednesday.
put that tweet out, and Asa went to bed, and he woke up with a whole bunch of people having a go at him.
Yes. The good thing is I don't go to bed till 2 or 3, so I was fine. I got to correct all my stuff and delete stuff. So
5 a.m. was a bit late for me, I must say. And then I think it was was it Friday? Yeah, Friday. I think 5 a.m. they put out the release. And then I guess some people online saw it and noticed the club had put Sheffield United in the release. So they had to go at the club. And then some folks in the media saw that as well. So you don't want to be doing that either. So I'm like, see, it wasn't just me. So there's that. And then Axel Schuster phoned me Friday morning about 7:30. I was half awake. He was like, hello, it's Axel. And so I talked to him, and he provided some background information in terms of how quickly this transfer came to be. The agent reached out on Tuesday, and then Sheffield Wednesday emailed Axel and the Whitecaps on Wednesday while the Whitecaps were in the middle of their game. They were playing that game.
Yeah, because I think that was one of the... Everyone was like, why the fuck is he playing in a game if he's about to get transferred out? It's because at that point, they hadn't got in touch.
And then he flew up there on Thursday, medicals and everything. And then the transfer fee was undisclosed, but then Manuel and JJ got the scoop on that, and they put out the numbers and the incentives, parameters regarding that. And Sheffield Wednesday wanted it done quickly so Stuart Armstrong could play on Saturday. Then obviously he did. He played 45 minutes. And it's been a busy, crazy up and down week. I didn't really appreciate all the stuff that happened behind the scenes and all the stuff online, and there's been apologies from the club to myself and the boss that runs the site, Canadian Soccer Daily. So there's been that, but I don't think it's enough, because as someone told me, this is your reputation, Har. This is Brendan's reputation. This is the website. This is your livelihood. And so apologies, you might think it's a good way to start, but come on, club can do more than that. So
I mean, it's good to see you've moved on from it and got over it though, Har.
It was this week. It was a few days ago.
But you wanted to come on and explain, so now you have explained. So for everyone that was wondering, because a lot of folk will have gone to bed either after they saw your first tweet or just woke up and been like, what's going on? Zach, when you heard he was going, just in general, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was getting most of this Har. I was living this through updates via text from Michael.
With lots of laughing emojis.
Yeah. Not feeling all the pain that you were as you were going through it, but
it was funny at first, I will say, but then when it turned out that Har was right all along, then it kind of took a
wasn't
less
funny at all.
No, that was a less funny turn.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I heard he was going, you were just like, this this is not good, right? Like this was supposed to be helping almost like in some senses in terms of squad building, squad investment. This is sort of supposed to be turning a new page almost for them, in my opinion. So to have them then alter the plan, or as we'll talk about what Axel said later, but when you were messaging me, I was like, this is not good for the season, which already has a number of its own issues unrelated to the squad surrounding it. That it's like this is just not helpful, and saw some of the initial frustration with from supporters, and then as things have continued to unwind, I've seen that get even worse. I will say it's hard, as much as I was feeling I was seeing things in a humor sense as it was unfolding. Like I do really feel for you, because it is, in one sense, it is inexcusable to have such a mistake made, or I don't know all the details. If it was a mistake, they didn't know there was more than one high level club in Sheffield, Michael. Not to excuse your Sheffield FC, but or whatever. But that's kind of inexcusable. I mean, it reminds. Yeah, I mean, I've had other experiences, but I won't go into that. It makes me think of from the past in terms of Whitecaps fandom, but it is really horrible, and so I feel for you, Har. I'm sorry you had to go through all that, and I mean, social media is like a blessing and a curse, right? And one of the curses is people will say whatever they want to say, whether it's true or not, or just incredibly mean-spirited or mean, emotions that they're feeling that they're putting onto someone else or whatever. So I feel bad for that you had to go through that, Har, because especially because it was not your fault. It was nothing you did wrong, and so
thank you, Zach.
You had some funny replies though to some of the comments. You were given. I was laughing at some of your replies.
I was trying to have like a bit of a back and forth, so I could see I didn't intentionally do this, or if you don't reply or if you just go away, they're thinking you're hiding, or you're if you protect your tweets. So I thought if I confronted it, or maybe laugh it, or ha ha ha, maybe that could help. And for some it did, and others just still kept going. Yeah. So I mean, you were saying that Caitlin was concerned about my mental health.
Yeah, Caitlin got up, and I had told her everything that happened, and the first thing she said is she's like, is Har okay? That's the kind of stuff that can push somebody to hurt themselves. And I was like, no, I've checked, she's fine. I mean,
the club reached out. I had loved ones that wanted to phone the Whitecaps and tell them how they really felt about how things went down. Ooh. But I thought they were gonna tell me to off myself. These people were brutal.
I know. I liked it. We can laugh about it now. Well, we can. Maybe you can't. Someone had said, I think you need to drop the word journalist from your Twitter handle. That made me lol. But you handled it well. Because I would just have been replying in the comments, "Oh, go fuck yourself." But that's me, and that probably wouldn't. I'd have made things worse and would not have helped my reputation. So I think you handled yourself.
I wanted to, but
you carried yourself well in it. I mean, let's get into the deal then. So, by all accounts, the Whitecaps are going to get some money, and it looks like if everything is hit, which I'm skeptical of, they could get just under $600,000. So
that's if everything's met.
That's if everything's hit.
Oh, my.
It looks like it's going to get paid in installments. Yeah, so they've got a small fee just now. Yeah. If he makes a certain number of appearances, I guess goals, contributions, there's some money for that.
JJ had it. It was
if he re-signs.
Playing minutes, if he signs there, and promotion. Those are the three JJ put out there.
So they have to get promotion as well. Now,
good luck.
Right now, they're sitting 2 points shy of the playoff places. And the championship is brutal. It's one of the hardest leagues in Europe.
They should have won at the weekend.
Yeah, I watched the highlights of that because they wanted Stu to be there to play on Saturday. So he was on the bench. He came on at half-time. He played 45 minutes. There's 3 other Scots on the team. The manager Danny Roll as well. He knows, it was his assistant at Southampton. He knows a lot of guys on the team. Him and one of the guys, Barry Bannon, linked up for a good chance in the second half. Ultimately, though, it was a 1-1 draw, and they dropped 2 points, which saw them still sit in 10th place. So they are just 2 points back of the playoff places, but they're 17 back of automatic promotion. So I think you can kiss that goodbye.
Yeah.
So the chances of them getting to the Prem, and for Stu getting his dream, which we'll come to in a sec, of going to the Prem, is relying on them making the playoffs, getting past a number of teams, winning a few games as well, and getting to the Premier. They are already out the FA Cup. They lost to Coventry in penalties in the third round. That was a cracking game, by the way. So they only have the league to play for. So there is that. Now, it's not a lot of a return, obviously, but considering the Whitecaps paid nothing for him, they have made a profit, at least in that regard. But he was on a guaranteed 2.88 million salary. So even if I don't know how it all works, but if you pro-rata it and say he was here for 4 months, he picked up about 960,000.
Yeah.
Now, that's high, but it is part of the issue if you're bringing players in from Europe, but especially the UK, where the wages are obscene in general, and compared to value that you get from South Americans or North American players, it's a lot different. So he made 11 appearances for the Whitecaps, 6 in the league, 4 in the playoffs, 1 in the Canadian Championship, 5 starts. He played 414 minutes. He scored 2 goals, 2 assists, and he missed a penalty in the Voyageurs Cup final.
Yeah.
So is that value?
No.
Okay, first off, sorry, you mentioned the ceiling for the amount of roughly 600,000.
Around that, yeah.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
do we know what the basement is? Like, what's the minimum?
No, but I'm wondering if it's paid in 3 installments. Are we looking 200, 200, 200?
Maybe.
That's wow.
That's pocket change.
Yeah, that does not seem value. I think, Michael, the stuff you just said, I don't think it's unfair to mention those things. I just don't think that's a real barometer for. I don't think it gives the best picture of the overall situation, right? Like,
I know.
I mean, even with what we know now, with what Axel has said afterwards, I think it's a bit unfair to maybe judge him or whatever, or evaluate his time in Vancouver based on all of that. In terms of his on-field contributions, like, yeah, I think everyone thought he would do more. I think everyone thought he would play more, and you know, as it was being lived out, we talked about that, about the settling, the, you know, adjusting, travel, whatever, all those different things. I don't know. Not that it's cynical, but it just feels a little bit harsh, I guess, to look at it through that lens when you're like, yeah, so, you know, his goals were each whatever, you know.
I was kind of being facetious with that. I will mention that, but I mean, Hart. Now this is something that we kind of have had different information on. I was told his family role didn't play into this at all, but you feel otherwise.
I know where you got that from too. Yeah, my source, the one that gave me the scoop, the heads up, said the family wanted to go back to the United Kingdom. So how could it not play a factor? Maybe the amount or the size of the factor, or the big thing there. Maybe it wasn't as big as we thought, but it was a factor. I must say it was a factor. How can you not say it's a factor? And his family did come out to Vancouver, so people saying that they didn't even come out here. They did come out here for a little bit, so that was good. But yeah, we've seen players come here. Oh, my wife wants to go back, or my family wants to go home, and they were Scottish too, so it's not the first time.
I tend to agree with Har on this. I think that it is a factor. The size of the factor is debatable, I guess. But I think, Michael, there's a reason, though, why it would be advantageous for it to be not considered a factor, because then you're hurting the reputation of, or it has the potential to hurt the reputation of either the player, but also just the idea that, hey, a family didn't like it here, or a family didn't settle here, and you don't want that to be the case. You don't want that to be in the ether, right? It does not helpful to bring in future players, and so I can understand why some would want it to be like, oh, no, that wasn't an issue. It's all about this. It's all about this. I have a dream.
Yes. But let's get into that. Actually, before we get into that, just going back to the family thing, like, it's something I've talked to both of you about that. I said right away when I found out it was a newborn, I don't think this is going to go well.
You did.
Now, Zach, we recorded stuff where we were talking about this, and I ended up cutting it out. I didn't put it into the podcast. I wish I had now. But it was because I thought maybe that's unfair, and it's like just maybe fans will then be like, oh, is he going to go? And I thought, no, let's not put that pressure on him, and we never ended up using it. But it was in the back of my mind because it is hard. If you've had a newborn and you're a woman that's got a good career as well, and all your parents and support mechanism is in another country, it's hard to settle. But Axel did, I was going to say do media availability. He spoke because this is something that bothers me. And I'll be interested to get Har's take on this. Like, I love Sarita. I think Sarita does a great job. And the stuff, she's been the best person that's produced these kind of stuff for the club in the MLS era, by far. I have a problem, though, when she's speaking to Axel or the players, and it's called media availability, because she's not media. She works for the club. So she's not going to hold his feet to the fire. And let's hear Axel's comments first, just about the move, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I have to say this whole thing started already when we signed him. I think we have signed 2 wonderful DPs, and we have them in our team. Both have been top in their categories in all their statistics over the last season with Ryan Gold and Andres Kubas. And we always had this desire to find a third player that can help us with similar stats in his position and who can fill a gap. And so we waited long, we worked hard on convincing Stuart, and we could convince him to come to Vancouver. But we knew from the beginning, and I knew from the beginning, that there is a dream that he has, that he would like to play once again in the Prem, and that he told me he will not give up on this dream. So I always was a little bit, anxious, skeptical, concerned that day might happen or it might not happen. And we spoke about this in the off-season again, and he was super happy. He told us wonderful things. I think he also mentioned that now in his outgoing quote, his goodbye quote. But he said also, I still don't give up on my dream. And we were coming closer to the deadline day in England, and I was always hoping it might not happen because he was happy here, had only a dream, nothing wrong with Vancouver, but you have your dreams. And then, unfortunately, and luckily for him, unfortunately for us, on Tuesday, it came up the first time. Wednesday, during our match against St. Patrick's, we got an official email, and then, there was no chance to stop this process, to hold you back. If somebody has a dream and it can get fulfilled, there's nothing you can do. It would almost be a negative if you would block it, because then you would have somebody who is very disappointed. So we only then have been focused on getting the best possibility for us. And at the same time, we're working since a long time because we knew about the scenario, always on an alternative. We have not reached out to players before because there was no need for it, but we have started the process right away. And I can tell everyone already that this has no financial reasons, nothing of it. We want to use every dollar that now comes back to us is frees up, that we get through the transfer, and we want to continue to strengthen the team, and we want to find a player that is as helpful as Stuart for us.
So Axel just talking there about the Armstrong move. So in short, he says it was on the cards from the start. It was always in the back of his mind. They're already talking to players to replace him. We'll come to that in a sec. I mean, Har, what's your thoughts on what I said before that? I mean, that wasn't media availability. There wasn't any tough questions. Like, he wasn't asked things that we would want to know. Was there an agreement in place that if a club came in, he would always be let go? How much did the family play into it? What if the Whitecaps said no to the deal? Now, Axel did say you'd have a disappointed player, but you've got one that signed a contract. So ultimately, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but you did sign a contract. And it's fine to talk about dreams, and you do want the club to treat players well, and they've been so much better at that than they have in the past. But you also don't want to be seen as a soft touch by players. You've had Fafa saying, I want to go because of family reasons. You've got this now, I've got a dream I want to pursue, so we'll let him go. What's your thoughts on that, Har?
First of all, spot on. Club media availability. It's not spoke to the media if it's just the club reporter, which is obviously paid for by the club. And it's not just them doing that in Spain. They did it last season here in Vancouver as well. So spoke to the team reporter, sure, you can put that in there. But saying media availability, and I asked, well, who's speaking? Oh, it was just, the club reporter and player or coach. That's not the same thing, and that's thrown out there often. In regards to Stu leaving, I'm told that he was quite adamant and he really, really wanted to push for this move and really wanted to go back to Sheffield Wednesday, and the Whitecaps did not want to stand in his way. They did not want to hold him back. They didn't want the player to then be here and then be upset or unhappy that he's here and the move fell through. So he was really, really wanting the move, and they didn't want to stand in his way.
I mean, Zach, it sounds like it's just been a rental to get the team into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of the fans are framing it as in terms of using that kind of North American language around it, which is understandable. Yeah, I agree with you guys in terms of the perspective on media availability. I mean, everything he said there could have been just him making a statement as opposed to it being shaped as media availability, because you're right, it's not. And I could say more about that, but I won't. But yeah, it is. I wonder if, I mean, Axel's saying, yeah, when he came here, he let us know that he still has this desire to play in the Premier League. I will say that is weird in one sense, in that you're talking about a dude nearing the end of his prime years of his career, or at the end of his prime years of his career, and he has played in the Premier. It's not like he never played in the. It's not like he's like, I want to play in the World Cup, so I gotta play in this league or whatever. It's just like, I felt the way that they, even if that's exactly the language Stu used with them, it just feels like really awkward. It's just like, it's not like this is an 18-year-old kid and he's trying to get into Europe for the first time or something, right? It's like a dude who's 32 who, yeah, wants to go back and play there for probably a variety of reasons. And saying it's the Premiership, saying it's for, I mean, they're not going to say it's for the money, but yeah, it's probably, that plays a massive role in it. It just felt awkward. It just felt like, I'm not sure Axel could have done anything differently with that piece, but it comes off awkward. And I listened to it after, like, I didn't listen to it right away. I'd seen and heard and read a bunch of the feedback to what he had said, and I thought, oh, this is horrible. And I listened to it, and I actually didn't think the whole thing was horrible on the content, aside from there being not being media. But I felt like that part was just like, oh, he had a dream, so we're helping him live his dream. Just feels so awkward. And there is, like you said, Michael, there is this thing which I think is different in football to the other North American sports, around honoring your contract, right? Mm-hmm. Like most pro sports organizations and leagues in North America, they don't work with the player for what the player wants, right? They do what they want, they own them and whatever. Now, obviously, I think NWSL has kind of changed that, or NSL, or both of them are. I think NWSL has officially changed that, and they're now. The players have to agree to trades and all that kind of stuff, but in North America, it doesn't work that way. And so I think from the fan base's perspective, I've heard a lot of that. Like, you sign a contract, you need to live it out. Where we know in football, it's very different, that you do work with the players. What do they want? You do work with the players leading into and during that last year of the contract, because that's when you're the only time you can. I mean, if it comes to within 6 months, you lose them for free. So if you want to make money off them, you got to be working ahead as a club, right? So it's just a different world. And so I see some of this kind of like it's like an apples to oranges thing. So I see some of the fan base trying to apply the North American standard to something that isn't really totally North American standardized. And it's just, again, it creates awkwardness, it creates tension. It obviously has created a significant amount of frustration and anger. And it was good. One of the good things that Axel said was, I knew this always could happen. So I've always had ideas of who we would go after. We never went after them because we didn't know. But now that this has developed, now that this has happened, we are pursuing those players, and we look forward to giving you an update as soon as we can on all of that. I think on that front, he did the best he could. And even though fans are frustrated and hurt, it's hard to fault him and the Whitecaps on that front.
Yeah, the reaction to Axel, I'd seen like you, I'd read all the reactions before I watched the video, and I was like, oh, what on earth did he say? And it wasn't, I don't think it was great, and it was quickly moved on to then talk about other stuff as well, which I don't think helped. What I'll say about Stuart Armstrong is he's a great player. He would have been great here this year, I think. It's disappointing that you look at that Portland playoff game and you had White, Gold, Fafa and Armstrong flying. And it's like, that's what this club could have had. And now you've lost two of them. And you can argue Jayden Nelson's maybe a replacement from Fafa. So now they need to go and get a replacement for Armstrong. And he is a good player. I wish him well at Sheffield Wednesday. And he wants to still be part of the Scotland setup as well. So I think he feels if he's playing in the top flight, he's got a better chance at that than maybe being over here. Although he was called into the last couple of games just from a kind of needs-must situation. We never got to see the real Stuart Armstrong. And I will say, I don't have a problem if the club want to bring a player in just for a few months to help them get in the playoffs or win a cup or whatever. I'm totally okay with that. It helps if they frame it that way, though. Mm-hmm. And they've always come out and said, we're not interested in short-term signings. Yeah. And I think that's then what makes it sting a little bit more.
I also think there's a bit of snowballing here. There's a snowball effect to all of this, right? Because when you read some of the comments, some of them you can tell are influenced. All of this is influenced by the current climate, the current culture, the current situation the club finds itself in terms of the club is for sale and the significant and probably fair anxiety that surrounds fans with could the club be moving in a year or two or three or whatever? Because some of the stuff I read, I was shocked. But it's not simply what's happened with Armstrong. It's this other stuff going on. Like, I don't know if you read what Naz wrote on Facebook, right?
I read Naz. Like Darcy as well, who's big part of the supporters culture in Vancouver these days, saying it's hard for her to get enthused about this club. And it's like, these are people that love this club so much and have done so much for the club. And it's like, whoa, they're now feeling what's happening here.
Yeah, Naz, who's the person who welcomed me into supporter culture in the Lower Mainland. So he's someone, obviously, I view him very highly and a massive amount of respect for. He was jumping all the way to, hey, can we just have a CPL club that plays at Swangard that's called the Whitecaps and go and kind of relive the glory days? And then you had Ted, who's like one of the founders of the South Side, come on and say, yeah, that would, in some ways, that would be the most ideal outcome. And it's like, whoa, like, I know that obviously as Har's head is shaking, that's not what the majority of current Whitecaps fans would want. But it's interesting to see that something like this is triggering these kinds of comments from people who've been around for so long. Because there's this unfortunate cloud of uncertainty and negativity that's looming, and it'll probably take a good couple of quality signings and a good start to the year to hopefully get through that haze.
I mean, well, first of all, the transfer window is open until April 23rd, so there's still lots of time to bring players in. But this uncertainty, this just adds to it. And it makes it look like, because I've seen reports from the UK and like other podcasts here talking about it. It's like, it's a fire sale at the Whitecaps and just getting rid of everyone. And that isn't actually what is happening, but no. I can see
that's how it's being framed.
Yeah, I can see why folk are thinking that as well. And like we were talking about the sale on Wednesday when we met up, and
Yeah.
I'd heard a rumour
Yes, you did. Tell us.
that the club had already been sold. That was what was going around some members of the business community here.
Oh, so we're talking about this. Okay.
We are, yeah. I know Zach's all like, whoa.
Of course we're talking about it. It's the AFTN Soccer Show.
So I'd heard someone phone me, respected in the business community, saying, oh, just so you know, this is the scuttlebutt amongst some of us, that the club's already been sold, and this is just kind of just going through the motions a little bit. Now, having Axel on speed dial, yeah, you can explain and shoot down that rumour, because I wasn't the only one that heard that rumour. It turns out Axel had heard that rumour as well.
Yeah,
Was keen to address it.
I was talking to him on Friday morning, as I mentioned, while I was half asleep, half awake, whatever. And I'm just saying, thank you for calling. Enjoy Spain. We'll see you in a few weeks. He's like, oh, I have one more thing to talk to you about or tell you about. That rumor about the team being sold. It's not true. We're starting. Goldman Sachs is going to sit down in the coming days, and they're going to look at the prospective pitches from people that are interested in purchasing the team. So, that's what's happening with the sale. And so I took it to think, well, he's obviously heard what Michael was talking about on Wednesday the other day when I saw him. And so he brought up the sale. I didn't ask. I was ready to go back to bed, and he gave me that information. So it was a false report. There is no sale, but it's circling. People are hearing stuff, maybe from the same person. I don't know. And it got back to Axel.
You, of course, on face value, you want to believe Axel. And I think Axel, in my view of him, like, he's earned the right to be trusted with something like this. If it wasn't Axel, I would highly doubt the refutation of what you heard. But for now, I'm willing to give Axel the benefit of the doubt. But what you described to me, Michael, about what you had heard was very, very fitting with, how shall I say, how the Whitecaps have been run in the past. And I don't say that to paint it in a certain way. I just say that as an observation. But like I said, I hold Axel in a relatively high regard, and so if he says that's not actually what's going on, I've heard this, so I assume you have, and here's the actual information. I think that's what people really need to rely on.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly was doing the rounds, and it's that kind of thing. It grows arms and legs. It's like Chinese whispers. It's like the next bit's just got another little bit added on to it. So, I mean, who knows? But you've got this uncertainty. It's like, I just did a piece for the Designated Players podcast, and the first thing they wanted to talk about is, the sale, the elephant in the room. And it's like, that is what everyone's watching just now, because it's a different scenario for MLS. And folk are really curious how this plays out, because there'll be some other teams that'll be like, if they were to sell and move to another city, is our team safe? We're not getting fans in. We're not doing this. Are we maybe going to get bought and move to another city? So I think that just adds to the uncertainty altogether. It does feel the club's in a state of flux, maybe a mess, you could kind of say. How they get out of it. I mean, announcing a sale quickly and the club staying here would go a long way. They have to get fans back on board, because there are a lot, as we've just talked about, not enthused about the season to come. They need to add to the roster. A word I used when talking to someone this week is, I felt the roster was looking grim, and they pushed back on that and said, no, we've only lost two players. And it's like, yeah, but it's two key players, and you've only brought one in.
Well, and they've lost other pieces as well.
Raposo, Schultz.
Well, two starters, I think, was the phrase that they'd kind of used. But I think it's looking grim. When you look at elsewhere around the league, especially in the West, and we've talked about the moves that San Jose's made, and yeah, they've got a long way to come, but we don't have very far to fall to go out the playoff picture.
if Axel was here, I think part of his refutation of that would be um, was what he said in the as Sarita continued to ask him to kind of paint a nice picture for the fans. Was which I found really interesting, which we talked about I think last episode, in particular about Tristan Blackman, is that he basically said, look, there's a number of players who have a new lease on life, who they maybe had fallen out of favor, but now are back in favor and are showing their qualities essentially. And so I think that's Axel's, I think, current view on kind of where the squad is at. Like, yeah, we're adding. There's definitely big pieces.
So it's like a new signing.
Yeah.
At least he didn't say that.
Yeah, at least he didn't say that. That's true. But no, like there are big holes that they're still trying to fill. But I think in general, they feel like that the energy and the contribution that they're going to get from some people that wasn't as high last year will be higher this year.
Last thing for this bit. If we're looking at strengthening the squad, which we clearly need to, I mean, for me now, the two big things is we still need to bring in another striker to support Brian, but the midfield now is not looking strong at all. It looks like a 4-3-3 could be something that they're looking format-wise, formation-wise. But I mean, what do you feel they need to bring in? One midfielder, two midfielders, forward as well?
You look at the starting lineup today over in Spain, I think that's pretty close to what we're going to see in that first game on my birthday, of course. And so I think maybe some depth. You need to shore up your depth there, and injuries, suspensions, international call-ups. You need to solidify the roster. And so another striker, midfielder, maybe somebody on the flanks, even a center back, goalkeeper. I would say maybe a couple more signings would be great. And so we're still in February and there's still time before the season starts. So maybe a trade, maybe they could sign your BFF and have him.
Well, I was thinking this does open the door to Johnny now. And as I've said, I've asked Axel 3 times now, and he's never completely shot it down. He's kept that flame in my heart alive. And with Valentine's Day coming up, I feel this could be his special Valentine surprise for me.
Yeah, he doesn't want to crush your hopes and dreams, but I feel like if he was coming here, he would have signed here. Although we did just see Tim Parker sign with who was going to the Red Bulls, as that was reported online.
Oh, I missed that.
Another person with a birthday on the 23rd of this month, if I missed it.
I mean, Zach, for me, they have to bring in a starting midfielder. I think it's beyond depth. They need a DP quality starting midfielder.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there at all. Can I ask one question about the midfield? If the Whitecaps were so willing to work with Stuart Armstrong and living out his dreams, last season was not Andreas Kubas or his camp or his people expressing he had dreams as well that did not involve being in Vancouver?
Yeah, I asked him about that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's necessarily keen. Like, he's not pushing to leave, but he does want to play at a higher level because he's got World Cup aspirations. Was it Boca that was interested in him or something?
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know from playing the Copa Libertadores in EAFC with Kirk the other day, I think they're not in the form they in the recent time. They're not kind of hitting their heights as they usually would expect for them. So I wonder if that's a club that's still interested in him. But no, you're right. They do definitely need something in the midfield. And I would say, like I said, I think at the end of last season or during last season, Michael, what they need in terms of up front is not someone to support Brian White. It's someone they need someone better than Brian White, in my opinion. Brian
looks aghast.
That Brian White is either playing with or battling with for minutes or whatever. Because in the last show, I gave Brian full compliment on his debut with the U.S. and happy for him for that. But he is at a good level. I just think that in where MLS is at the moment, that they should be investing in a player that's even at a higher level, and also a different type of striker. That's the other thing. Is Brian White is a certain kind of striker with certain qualities and certain abilities that I think they need to have someone who is different. I think a key part of that would be
They do. His name is Damir Kreilach.
no.
He
Sorry, yeah.
scores.
The number one thing I was going to say is they need a striker with pace.
Ah. Well, I've got some breaking news. It's not just Har with the scoops, and it is about Brian White. Not officially announced, but I have heard through the grapevine that because of the new tariffs, every goal that Brian White scores at BC Place will be worth an extra 25%. So it's like 1.25 per goal. So that could be enough to push them over the line and turn some of those draws into victories.
That would definitely help the team.
Hey, while Hart's here, can I ask? Can I play a little game, Michael, or we got more to go in the second?
Oh no, we're finished with this part.
Okay, Har will probably get this. Now, this is not from deep research. This is just from limited. So, Har, you're talking about your birthday and coming up.
Oh.
This last month, January 1st, of course, was Kendall Waston's birthday. Yesterday was February 1st. Can you tell me how many former Whitecaps in the MLS era were born on February 1st, and can you name any of them?
There's definitely a few because there's lots of Whitecaps with February birthdays. So I'm trying to think who it could be. Okay, what positions are we talking here?
Okay, well, guess the number first. How many do you think there are? And there might be more. There's only three. I gave you the number.
I think there's three.
It's a three.
Probably three.
Oh, you're the quiz master with the mostest.
I'm sorry. The one, if I give you the position, it's a little bit too easy. That's probably a clue in and of itself.
Is it
David Ousted.
Ousted?
Yes, David Ousted turned 40 yesterday.
Oh.
The other two are primarily known as being defenders.
Oh.
Not Jordan Harvey?
No.
Greg Klazura.
No. Although at least one of these players played with Greg Klazura.
Bilal Duckett.
No.
I'm digging into the depths now. What quality players we've had over the years?
One of these players played with
Christian Dean.
No.
Oh.
That's a good guess, but no.
Yeah, because I saw him posting stuff on social media. I was like, oh, was it? 'Cause it was his birthday.
What? I'll give you another clue. One of these players is we would primarily thinking as being American, and the other is primarily not.
It's not Demerit.
No.
Oh.
These are much older in the MLS era.
All right, so we're talking really early.
One of them played with Greg Klazura.
So we're looking at the Rennie era.
It's like a decade ago.
They were both there for Rennie, yes, or part of it at least.
Jonathan Leathers.
No.
Whatever happened to Jonathan Leathers?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's give up.
Okay, the one who I'm thinking American actually played for Iran.
Oh,
It's on the tip of your tongue.
B.
Yes.
Betasure.
Yeah.
Betasure. I kept wanting to say Berhalter. Betasure.
Betasure turned 30.
Actually, talking of Berhalter and just going back to the rumours of the sale, one of the rumours is Greg Berhalter could be involved in a group that's keen to buy the Whitecaps.
Isn't he a coach in Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Sure, being involved.
I don't know. I just came to me.
So who's the other defender then?
The other one's someone who's near and dear to my heart. He played center back, he played left back, and I think he played a little bit of midfield as well.
Oh, Alain Rochat.
Alain Rochat.
Out of sight, out of mind. This is good though. It helps my dementia to think back of all the early
that
things.
took up a lot of time. That was a long game.
I don't know if there's any more. I just saw those three come up yesterday.
But that is it for this part. Har, thank you for joining us. Give Har a follow on Har Journalist on Twitter and Blue Sky. And I'll read all our stuff at Canadian Soccer Daily. Only send in nice things on social media.
Don't give me a follow. Do not tweet me. Do not comment. Leave me alone. How do you screw up what team you're transferring a player to? Imagine if the Canucks had sent JT Miller to the Rangers and they're like, oh, sorry, he's going to the Islanders. Oh, no, wait, he is going to the Rangers. You cannot screw up a transfer like that.
I know, but yet you did. And let's finish this part now. So thanks, Har, for joining us. We're going to continue the Whitecaps chat now in the next part as we bring you the first of two feature interviews this episode as we sit down with the newest Whitecap, the only new Whitecap, if you don't include the draft picks, Jayden Nelson. So we'll be back with that after our first song from our album of the month.
Hi, it's Jayden Nelson, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
When I fall in love, it will be forever.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And it's a new month. You know what that means. It's time for a new album of the month. And that's the first of two songs that we're going to play from it this episode. The album was released on October 26th, 1987. It's the debut album for a Grebo band from Stourbridge in the West Midlands. They are Pop Will Eat Itself. The album is Box Frenzy, and it's a very interesting band. They started in 1986. They're still going today as well. They started off as, I say, like a Grebo band, which is probably not a phrase that many of you will be that familiar with. It's kind of a grungy style of indie rock before grunge was a thing in the 90s. Lots of baggy clothes, a scruffy look, long, greasy hair. As their career kind of moved on, they kind of got more into a dancey side of things, kind of industrial rock. They always used a lot of samples in their record, as you'll have heard from that one that we played there, which was the second single to be taken from the Box Frenzy album after Beaver Patrol. And that was There Is No Love Between Us Anymore. It's a single that reached number 66 in the UK charts after being released on January 18th, 1988. Features a few samples in it. You heard Nat King Cole, When I Fall in Love at the start, and the He Loves Me Not sample. Famous actress Joanna Lumley, taken from an episode of The Avengers. The band have released 8 studio albums in total. That was the debut Box Frenzy, and that is going to be our album of the month for February. And the reason I went with that for this month is February, of course. It's the month of love. And Box Frenzy is an album full of love songs, some more unconventional than others. In fact, I'd probably say a lot of them are quite unconventional love songs, but love songs nonetheless. That one, There Is No Love Between Us Anymore, certainly ticks the love box. We'll have another love song to kick off the next part, and also later on this month we'll feature the band in Wavelength, because they do also have a football song that they brought out in 1990. I've been saving that one either for a kind of World Cup themed month, or if we had Pop Will Eat Itself as Artist of the Month or Album of the Month. So we'll bring you that later on in the month, and another song from Box Frenzy to kick off the next part. But we'll get back to the football chat now, and we're going to keep talking Whitecaps, and it's time for the first of two feature interviews in this episode of the show, as we chat with the club's latest signing. I mean, admittedly, only signing if we don't count the draft pick so far. Hopefully that is going to change soon. And that is Canadian international Jayden Nelson, the 22-year-old from Brampton, Ontario, putting pen to paper and signing for the Whitecaps last month, getting used to his new teammates, getting some minutes in on the pitch, and coming to Vancouver after a career that saw him come through the Toronto Academy, signing a homegrown deal with TFC in 2020, going on to make 45 appearances for the Reds before earning himself a move over to Norway with top side Rosenborg. 44 appearances for Rosenborg, 8 goals, 9 assists. That, in turn, earned him a move to Germany, Bundesliga 2 with SSV Ulm. Things didn't quite work out at Ulm for Jayden. We spoke about all of that in the last episode of this show. So he's now back in Canada, back in MLS with the Whitecaps, and feeling he's got a lot to prove to himself, to the fans, and he just can't wait to get going on the pitch. And we can't wait to see him on the pitch as well. A lot is obviously going to be expected of him with Fafa Picault and now Stuart Armstrong moving on. Some attacking production that we saw from him at Rosenborg would certainly not go amiss for the Whitecaps this season. So I got a chance to sit down with Jayden this weekend just to chat about his footballing journey, the move to Vancouver, and a lot more beside. So I'll go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy the first of two feature interviews this episode with the latest Whitecap, Jayden Nelson. Welcome to the show, Jayden. Welcome to the Whitecaps. How is life treating you so far as a Whitecap?
It's been great, man, so far. Honestly, it's a great group of guys. These guys are good off the pitch and on the pitch, so it's been really easy to integrate with the team so far. And yeah, I'm excited to be back in Canada, and yeah, I can't wait to meet the fans and to give it my all for the badge, honestly.
And you'll know a few of the guys. I watched the video they put out. So like Ali was over, Sam was over. You're talking to Bilal. So I mean, how well do you know the guys on the team?
It's just going back from national team camps, so be able to see these guys again and to see how they're doing on an everyday basis. It's good, So and Rolf, me and Rolf really went through everything, as youth. So it's nice to be playing alongside him again.
I totally forgot you were with Ralph before at TFC. Yeah. I'm keeping my hat on for the interview because I'm bald and your hair makes me very jealous. But it's top notch here. We do an end of season hair of the year award, and I think you've won that hands down already.
I hope I win it.
You should do. I don't think there's a lot of competition on the team, to be honest.
Maybe not. Maybe Sam.
No, that's true. He does do a good one. Let's talk about the move then back to MLS, coming to Vancouver. How did it all play out? Because obviously I know you are in loan in Germany. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But did you just want to come back to Canada? Was part of it just to try and maybe catch Jesse Marsch's eye a little bit more? Yeah,
for me it was a difficult time, from when I went from Norway to Germany. My time in Norway was top. I loved it a lot. But the move to Germany was difficult for me to find my footing and whatnot. And to be honest, time is ticking, so for the World Cup. And I always been watching Vancouver, even when I was in the MLS, that they're on the right trajectory going forward, and I could see that. And with the new coach coming in as well, I thought it was a good fit for me, as well as we're playing a 4-3-3 this year. So I think me as a winger and being in the MLS again, I know the league and whatnot. It felt like the right time and a good way to be Jayden Nelson again, So that was my thought process through that, and honestly, I'm happy about my decisions.
Yeah, I think everyone, the general consensus was folk were happy that you were here. We've know what you've done in the league before. Anyone that's kind of seen what you've done in Norway as well. I did
Yeah.
look to see what your record against the Whitecaps was. So you've played 3 times and you've never beaten the Whitecaps. So
Exactly.
if you can't
So
beat us, like, come and join us. That's
just join you guys,
yeah.
huh?
I want to
Yeah.
take you way back to how it all started for you. And you're another Brampton boy. It's like,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
insane the talent that comes out of such a small place.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It has to be honest, it's Canada on a whole. We're a multicultural country, and it brings all types of different type of footballers, So I think that's the biggest thing. But Brampton is just a pot of talent, man. I don't know what it is, but it's just a lot of talent in Brampton, and you can see that from our national team. It's a great place.
Yeah, it's certainly something in the water, and whatever it is, they need to sort of clone this for the rest of Canada. So I read that you started playing as a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
When did you really get the bug? Like, when did you feel, oh, this is what I want to do as a career?
To be honest, as long as I remember, like I enjoy football. I love football, and even if it wasn't for money, like I would still be playing. Like, so it's since I remember, I just always wanted to do this. I always wanted to be a pro. I always wanted to be at the top level, and I'm still dreaming about that, So it's always been in my memory.
So when you went into the TFC Academy at 14, at
Mhm.
what point did it kind of in your head think, I can do this, I can actually make it, I can be a pro?
Uh, I think I don't know if it's the right information online, but I think I was in the academy a bit earlier than that.
Ah,
But it started from then, to be honest. Like me, when I was in the academy, they always put me a couple years like ahead, So I was training with when I was U12, I was training with the U15, So I think they really pushed me towards progressing well in terms of that. So I think me just having the mindset to keep going, and if I'm 14 or 12 years old playing with 15-year-olds, what can I do when I'm 15, and that's when I signed my first pro contract, and yeah, and I never looked back since.
wow. Like when you were growing up then, who was your footballing heroes? Like who did you watch and you're like, oh, I wish I could be like them, or oh, I want to model my game a little bit on them?
Ronaldinho, that's my idol.
Oh,
Ronaldinho.
wow.
I love Ronaldinho, and it's amazing that we got a chance to see him when I was at Toronto. He came to one of our games against New York at home, and like I was a starstruck, but yeah, Ronaldinho hands down is my favorite footballer.
Oh, that's cool. Like, did you support a specific team when you were growing up?
No, I just love the game. Like in my household, there wasn't really a team that we supported and it was passed down to me type of thing. It was just you love football and yeah, you just play it.
Like when you look back then at your early days at TFC, so you were with the academy, you were the threes, the twos, you got your homegrown contract.
Hmm.
How do you look back at that progression through the academy up to that point where you signed that homegrown deal?
Yeah, it was just good because we had a lot of talent in the TFC Academy, so it was nice because we pushed each other, you know. We pushed each other like even with Pharrell, for example, like me and him, we pushed each other a lot, So every single day it was a challenge, We challenged ourselves even if it was off the pitch, like we're doing football, tennis, we're doing little technical things that we have a competition in, and I think that's what really took my development to a next level because every single minute when I stepped into that facility was a challenge, So when I got to the second team, it was the same thing. When I got to the first team, it was more about details and guys like Jonathan Osorio putting his arm around me and really showing me what it's like to be a professional, So just those little things and having good people around me it was great through my development.
And then January 2020, I mean, that was some month. You get your call up to the senior national team, you sign
Yeah.
a homegrown deal. It's like that must have been a special time for you.
Yeah, of course. Now it's crazy to look back, and I think my first call up, yeah, I scored my first goal with the national team as well. So it's just crazy to be able to represent your national team and to know that people are watching you and they have belief in you. And I knew that the whole country was behind me as well, which was amazing. And it's something I will never forget.
I mean, it was such a weird time though as well, because it's like you did all that, you had a great January, you're getting ready for the season, COVID hits, everything's up in the air after that point. I mean, what was that like as a young footballer that you're thinking, right, I've got my deal, I've kind of made it to this point, now I've got to show myself, and then it just all stops for you?
Yeah, it was a weird moment, honestly. I think a lot of people could say the same. And then we had like MLS's back and whatnot, and us moving to Florida. So it was just a weird period. And I knew as well, like being a pro footballer, I'm going to have to adjust to many things that are just out of my control. And it was just one of those things. But yeah, it was just a weird period.
But what's your memories then of your pro debut?
To be honest, a lot of nervousness, but at the time it was the MLS is back as well. I started as well. That was my debut, which was not really a thing. You either come off the bench. So yeah, it was nice. I was excited. I was ready to show like what I could do. And I was playing with like guys that I really look up to, like Pozuelo, Pablo Piatti. These guys are like, I'm really on the pitch with these guys. So it was a great moment and another memory that I'll never forget.
What about your first pro goal? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was a long time coming, I thought, and it was in Real Salt Lake. Yeah, and it was a quite a good one as well. So, well, yeah, it was just a great goal, and it was something that when I got the taste of it, I just wanted more. So it was an amazing feeling.
And I mean, you're going to be going back to Toronto in a few weeks' time. Well, maybe a couple of months' time now. It's like, is that going to be a weird experience for you? If you score, are you going to celebrate? Are you going to be like, oh, no, can't celebrate?
I haven't decided yet. I'm joking, but I don't know. All respect to Toronto, but when we go out there, we want to win.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm really excited for that game.
Yeah, I bet. And like, I mean, you turned heads in MLS the first time round. Everyone knew what a talent you were. I think folk expected you'd make a move to Europe at some point. So how did Norway come about? I know there's a lot of guys do land in Scandinavia from Canada, but so how did all that come about?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't my first choice to go to Norway, but a lot of things were blocked through transfers like before the years and whatnot with Toronto. So when this came up, it was very late in the window as well. I if I remember, but it was an opportunity that I thought made sense. And Scandinavia is a place where if you do well, you could land somewhere big, and the club I went to, Rosenborg, is the biggest team in Norway and Scandinavia, I think. So it was an opportunity I wanted to take, and I'm grateful for that opportunity as well. And I learned a lot. I'm definitely a fan of that club now as well. So yeah, for me, it was an opportunity that I needed to take and bring myself to the next level.
Yeah. How was life in Norway then? I've never been to Norway. I've been to Finland. That's the only Scandinavian country I've been to. But I mean, it's a different way of life, but it always seems so lovely over there.
Yeah, it's top, man. It's top. Just like honestly, Vancouver reminds me a lot of it. Like you have the natural side, and then you have the city life, and like where I was living in Trondheim, it was a lot of students, so a lot of people my age, so it was easy for me to adjust. And everyone speaks English there, so that was quite good. But Norway is a top place, top.
You did so well there as well. 8 goals, 9 assists. You were really lighting it up.
Yeah.
What was the level like compared to MLS? And did you just kind of click right away there?
Yeah. what made it easier is I was going to a top side there, but the level was good. Like there's a lot of talent in Norway, young talent, and that's when I realized like there's a lot of guys that are like me, and that just made me push even harder. But Norway has a lot of talent, man, and the level I can't really compare it because for me now it's like football is football, and you get what you really put into it. So I can't really compare the level.
That's true. But I mean, you got to experience European competition,
Yeah.
Conference League, scoring in the Conference League as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that must have been a kind of special moment as well.
Yeah, it's a dream and one step closer to Champions League, So that's my dream to really play in a Champions League, and it's one step closer towards that. And to be honest, it's so real. Like a side like Hearts, I scored against.
Yeah. I
It's
watched
big
that
for
game.
me. Yeah, it's huge. So I was excited. I was a little bit emotional because I came all the way from Brampton. So it's crazy for me, but it was a great feeling.
The move to Germany then, like you spoke about, if you go to Scandinavia, it can lead to a bigger move. Bundesliga 2 side, they just got promoted.
Yeah.
I mean, I know nothing really about your time there apart from looking at the stats, and it's obviously doesn't look like a lot of appearances. You touched on it at the start. Did it just not feel right? Was it just not working out for you there?
It was, again, like the move maybe shouldn't have happened, but it, you take everything as it is. And for me, I went down there for another opportunity and something that like it's a newly promoted club. It's Bundesliga 2. It's like similar to Championship where I'm going to be playing against top sides, like Hamburg, Schalke, Cologne. That fills up the stadium 60,000, 50,000 every weekend,
Yeah.
And that was my thought process. But when I got there, it was a shock because like the side I went to was basically a fourth division club that's playing in the second division, and it was hard for me to adjust to the style of football they wanted to play because obviously we're going to be fighting relegation and whatnot. But yeah, it just didn't fit me as a player, and that's why I need to come to Vancouver to really be myself again, and I think that's best for everyone, so that's all it is.
Yeah. Just last couple of things then, like
Mhm.
when you came here, the statement that was in the press release that was put out, I think it's the kind of statement fans want to hear from players that are coming into a new club, saying that you've got a lot to prove to the fans and to yourself. So you've mentioned it there. So you know that wasn't the real you at Ulm. So now you've got a chance. You've got a firelit under you here, and you've got a good group of players around you. And with a couple of the key attacking pieces moving on this off season as well, you've got a great chance now here in Vancouver just to show what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like I tried because it was a difficult time for me. Like I'm in a different country. It's not like Norway where everyone speaks English.
Yeah.
It was a difficult time, man, like honestly. And yeah, you look at social media, people say things and whatnot. I had to stop it, And now I got this opportunity. I know that obviously people are looking at that and what I've done in Ulm, and that's not me, but not everyone knows me as a person or as a human being. So yeah, I just know that I have something to prove, and I don't want to say like I got a message to say a statement, and I didn't want to say anything else than or a lot of words because I want to prove it on the pitch. I want to prove it to the fans. I want to prove that I'm a good player and I'm a good footballer again, and that's all it is. So just when I came here, that statement is just a little one because I want to show the rest on the pitch.
I mean, that's fantastic. Last thing, I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your night. We touched at the start about the World Cup. It's just a year and a half away, less than 500 days now. The chance to play in a World Cup in your home country and in your home stadium now as well. What would that mean for you?
Everything. Since I was 4 years old, everything. Playing in a World Cup in front of friends, family, like that literally means everything to me. Like that's all, everything. I've dreamt about playing in a World Cup, watching like Brazil and Spain, and I'm going to be playing against teams like that. It's something that you can't even think about as a kid, playing, like being from Canada. So it's something that's surreal, man. It's crazy.
I think that's a fantastic way to end it. Thank you so much for your time today, Jayden. We can't wait to see you on the pitch. It's going to be a tough start to the season, but yeah, we'll see you when you get here to Vancouver. Enjoy the rest of the time in Spain.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Jayden Nelson there, and definitely saying all the right things that the Whitecaps fans want to hear. He knows he has stuff to prove, especially after how things went in Germany. He's keen. He's eager to go. He knows there's a World Cup around the corner. He wants to be part of Jesse Marsch's plans, and he's going to be a key piece for the Whitecaps this season for sure. As I mentioned with Fafa Pico, Stuart Armstrong moving on. Right now, it's kind of slim pickings in the attacking core, especially the depth for the Whitecaps. So I think we will see a lot of Jayden on the pitch this year. Find out a lot about him there, his footballing journey so far. Of course, there's one more thing we need to find out about Jayden to make him truly a Whitecap. Does Jayden Nelson fancy a chocolate digestive? We always say you're not a Whitecaps player till you've done this section on our show, so this will be your official grounding into it.
Yeah.
If you're sitting at home and it's morning, mid-afternoon, you want to have a hot beverage, what's your hot beverage of choice? A tea, coffee, something else?
Well, actually, I've started to get into coffee recently, so maybe a cappuccino right now.
Ah.
Yeah.
Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you like to have a sweet treat with your coffee?
Not really. Maybe a croissant, and that's it.
Do you know, there's a couple of players have picked croissant, and I think that's like one of the unhealthiest things you could pick. But I mean, I don't know.
We burn it up, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's true. I do nothing. So yeah, for you, that would be fine.
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it sounds suggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
Jayden Nelson, maybe not fancying a chocolate digestive, not going to win the end of season award for having the best biscuit choices. Probably is going to win the AFTN end of season best hair award. So jealous of that as a bald person, have to say. But yeah, looking forward to seeing Jayden on the pitch. It's going to be a fun year watching him. I think it's a good pickup by the Whitecaps. Can he impress Jesper Sorensen? Can he impress the fans? Can he impress Jesse Marsch and make his way back into the Canadian national team mix? That we will find out. What we will do next, though, is we're going to sit down and have a chat with the Canadian men's head coach, Jesse Marsch himself. He was out in Vancouver on Wednesday for a coaching workshop. Canada Soccer gave us a chance to sit down with him for a one-on-one. We'll bring you that after we hear the second song from Pop Will Eat Itself and our new album of the month.
Hi, I'm Jesse Marsch, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Listen to the word of a man I overheard. He said, tell them, Grebo, tell them you're the first. Give them everything you've got enough to rock the shop. You know that it comes easy when you want it bad enough. You gotta give it all you love it, give it all your hate, give it everything you sometimes a man is strong. If you walk it like you talk it, then you know you'll do no wrong. We've got everything you want and we've got everything you need. Hell, if that ain't good enough, then we can make you bleed. You gotta give it all your loving, give it all your hate, give it everything you've got. Get out of my face. You gotta give it all your loving, give it all your hate, give it everything you've got. Get out of my face. Gotta give it all your loving, give it all your hate, give it everything you've got. Get out of my face. Gotta give it all your loving, give it all your hate, give it everything you've got. Get out of my face. United by love until death shall come. Smile 'cause we love you. You've got no need left to run.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, PWEI with UBLUD, or Pop Will Eat Itself with United by Love Until Death. Another love song from our album of the month, Pop Will Eat Itself's debut album, Box Frenzy. That was track 4 on the album, an album track, and the Grebo vibe runs strong throughout that one. And we'll be back next episode with at least one more song from Box Frenzy. Check that out and all their other stuff in all the usual places. Let me know what you've made of the 2 songs so far. But we're going to get back to the football chat now, and we're going to get back to our second feature interview of the episode, and the man that unites us Canadian soccer fans with love at the moment, Canadian men's national team head coach Jesse Marsch. Last part, we heard about a young player looking to try and break into Jesse Marsch's 2026 Canadian World Cup squad. Well, let's hear from the man himself, Jesse Marsch now. As mentioned, Jesse out in Vancouver, wrapping up a tour across the country of coaching workshops, speaking to the grassroots coaches. Fantastic that he's doing this. And I've got to say, and we have said in previous shows, having Jesse Marsch in as head coach of the Canadian national team, along with Kevin Blue at the executive level, John Lobban and Paolo Senra in the communication level, it has been a complete breath of fresh air. All of them doing a fantastic job. They want to get the stories across of the men's national team and the women's national team. They want to get those players known to the wider public. They want to grow the game in Canada, and the way to do that is feet on the ground, going across the country, talking to everyone, fans, media, coaches, players, and they're doing a really good job so far. They were here in Vancouver on Wednesday for their final coaches workshop out in Burnaby. Earlier that afternoon, got a chance to sit down with Jesse Marsch for a chat. And when you're a head coach that is doing as much stuff as Jesse has been doing, it's kind of hard to try and get an interesting interview hook that hasn't already been asked countless times. Could ask questions about Alphonso Davies, the World Cup in 26, even the Nations League games that's coming up in November. But I like to do things different, as you know, if you're a regular listener to the show. So I wanted to take Jesse all the way back, discover his love for the game, what made him want to have football as his career, what were his coaching influences, how has he seen himself grow, the game grow here in North America, and a lot more as well. So we did just that. A really good chat with Jesse. So go stick the kettle on once again. Grab another biscuit of choice because you're worth it, and listen to our chat with Canadian men's team head coach Jesse Marsch. So, Jesse, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to have been asked so much things, and it's trying to be difficult asking you something that's not already been asked. So I wanted to kind of take you on a journey through your kind of football career to this point, but more taking you all the way back to when you were 5 years old.
Okay.
So I know you went to your cousins,
Yeah.
and you discovered football and your love for football that way.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about that story and how you discovered the love for the game?
Yeah. I didn't know what soccer was, either did my parents. I went to my cousin's house in Chicago. I was from Milwaukee, Racine, Wisconsin. We played in the backyard. I loved it. And then I came home and I told my parents, I'm like, I want to play soccer. And they were like, what is that? They took me to the local Y. They signed me up. There was some dad that coached the team, and that started, I loved it, and the dad I had was super into it, and he ran an extra session a week. So we were out a lot and playing a lot. And then my brother was 3 years younger than me. And then as he got older, we were in the basement every night and playing every night. And my dad always had little goals, and we're in the backyard. And this became the foundation of my relationship with my brother is playing soccer in the backyard, or in the basement. So yeah, I think that's how it all kind of started.
So when you were growing up, obviously Wisconsin, you can't play all year round. We're quite blessed here. We've got a winter league for amateurs and all that kind of stuff as well. How did you cope with that? Did you play all year round? Did you have indoor facilities there?
Yeah, I mean, look, we played in my town. We played hockey, we played basketball in the winter, but then we always played indoor. Whether it was in an old school indoor with the boards and stuff, or if it was just in the gym. And so any gym that would allow us in, we would go play, and our coaches would organize it. And for me, this was almost more fun than being outdoor, because you had the walls. We just played bank off the walls. The ball was always in play. There were less players on the pitch or in the gym, and so you could get more touches on the ball. You could have more an impact in the game because of 4v4, 5v5. You just had the ball more, and I made sure that my team always won. That's what I cared about.
I mean, that's the way to do it. And you grew up an AC Milan fan. Who were your footballing heroes? Who did you kind of model your game on?
Well, I don't know if I mean, later on I modeled my game more on Albertini from AC Milan. But my heroes, were Maldini, because when I first started watching AC Milan, because with the rabbit ears we could get Rai television, that's how I watched AC Milan so much. And then we had an Argentinian family moved to our neighborhood when we were young. Diego Tanner was my friend, and he played with us. And then we became massive Maradona fans. And then the other channel that we could get with the rabbit ears on PBS in America, public broadcasting, was Soccer Made in Germany, and my favorite player was Rudi Völler. And so I've met Maldini, and I haven't met Maradona, and I was very lucky because I'm friends with Hansi Flick. I went to meet with him once in London about coaching national teams, and Rudi Völler joined us. And so in German, I got to speak with Rudi about his career and his experiences, and we had a couple beers, and it was like a dream of mine. So I told my wife after that dinner that all of the travels and work and trials and tribulations of being in professional football were all worth it for that one dinner.
Yeah, the guy I do the podcast with met Franz Beckenbauer at a MLS All-Stars game in Portland, and for him nothing's going to be better than that for him.
Yeah. This was kind of I wish I would have met Maradona before he passed, but yeah.
I never got to meet any of them. I mean, you obviously then, you went to Princeton, you got playing time there. Under Bob Bradley, did that kind of shape your desire that you thought, I want to go into coaching?
Yeah, well, this was, he was I had good coaches growing up, but he was the first one that matched the intensity of what I thought the game should be like. He was an incredibly demanding coach, a strong tactical coach, and created an incredible environment for training and for developing a team. And this became my vision for what this business is. So I was really lucky to get into Princeton. But I tell you, I went to Princeton because of Bob and the soccer program, if you can imagine that. How many stupid Princeton kids are there? There's maybe only one, and that was me. Because they all go there because they know it's one of the best schools in the world, which I knew as well. But really, I went there because I could see that Bob was a very unique coach and that the program was going to be something special.
So I know you started doing your badges at 26.
Yeah.
What triggered you that you decided you wanted to be a coach at that point?
I had a little bit of a time in my life. So if you go back to when I was 26, that's 1999, okay? And then the league contracted in 2000, And I went through a period where I was like, okay, what's going to happen here now? Maybe the league is starting to show some frailties and might not be here for that long. So I was taking my GMATs and thinking about business school. I was contemplating an offer to go play in Europe. And then my wife got pregnant. And so we kind of decided at that moment to stay at Chicago. And Chicago offered me a terrible contract that I signed. And at that moment, then I decided, you know what, with this terrible contract, I'm not going to be able to retire after I'm done playing, and I really want to be a coach. And I had great mentors like Bob Bradley and Bruce Arena and people like this. So that's when I started really thinking. I started coaching locally. I started volunteering. I started getting my badges, and I started really investing in, what I knew I was a good leader as a captain type, and I believed that I could now morph that into something that would make me a good coach.
I know you're doing these coaching workshops. What advice would you give then to young coaches or coaches that's just starting off in their careers?
What I've said is, it's similar to what first of all, you have to put yourself out there. You have to go to badges, you have to go to seminars, you have to coach teams, you have to try to put yourself out there and be eager to work with people, volunteer for things. And then the only other part for me is now this idea that I'm trying to share with people is the idea of intensity in the game, and not just about completing passes, but about dictating the pace of the way the game's played physically and with speed and with power and verticality and transition and then the details of what that means. But I think that this is the best thing for developing players and developing yourself as a coach, is to understand that modern football is a lot more than completed passes, and then how to integrate that into how you think and how you have your teams play.
When you look at MLS now, obviously you played in it, you coached in it, is it almost unrecognisable to you?
Well, it's certainly what we had all dreamed about. It was. We always joke that we would be the old guys, like when you look at the old NFLs from like the 50s and 60s, and those guys who played, and we wanted that to be us, and it's turning out that that's kind of how it's turned out. But we certainly are very, there's two things. I talk about 1994 and that moment in time and the divergence of what it meant for the sport in the country. And without 1994 World Cup, we wouldn't have MLS. I wouldn't have been a professional. I wouldn't have been able to coach. I wouldn't have gone to Europe and coach. And we need to use 2026 for Canadians that same way. And then I'm a product of MLS. I'm certainly not a Euro snob, and I'm not Europe's the only place that football exists. Obviously, we know that's the highest level of the game, but look at the types of players that I pull into the national team. I'm bringing in the best players that I think fit the style that we want to create as a national team, and a lot of those guys are in MLS, and a lot of them are really good players. So that development in our national team, I think, will remain and certainly be important for us.
The legacy you talk about, I was over at the 94 World Cup. So far, it's the only one I've actually been over to.
Okay.
Because Scotland weren't in it, so we could get tickets easier through the travel club.
Okay.
So we were in Detroit, of all places.
Okay.
But you see the growth of the game and the legacy. What would you like to see in Canada, especially in Vancouver, as the legacy? We've already lost one of the places that was getting upgraded.
Yeah, I would like to see continued academy development, real opportunities for young players, and continued coaching development, right? So that the expertise in the country continues to grow, and then a better youth national team setup, right? Where we can be the beacons of the game in the country, because it can't just be that there's a men's and women's national team and then sort of a couple of youth teams that represent us only during the tournaments. We need a robust youth national team that can really be the movement for the idea of football and for the level of professionalism that needs to be created in the country. So we're committed to doing that. We're raising funds to try to do that. Kevin Blue is the right kind of leader from a sports business perspective. We're going to get there. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're on our way already.
You're well-travelled. Grew up in Wisconsin. You've travelled all around the world. You've coached in Europe, and I know you've got your house in Italy. Where is home to you?
Now our home is Italy, and my family, I have 3 kids, they're all at school in Europe. We haven't had a home in a long time. So now we've bought a house that will be hopefully in our family for generations to come. And that was the purpose of the home that we bought there. And I don't know, I mean, this is the beauty of this sport, I think, especially for someone from Racine, Wisconsin. A lot of people don't leave, and there's a beauty to that, and there's a real sense of groundedness to what it's like to grow up in Wisconsin. But I always felt like this sport taught me a lot of things, and it challenged me to think about adventure. And so that's what my life is, an adventure, and I'm with my family, and we are on this adventure together. But the fact that this sport allows for so much international experiences and travel and cultural experiences. I mean, the languages I've learned, the places I've been, the things that chasing a ball around the grass has done for me, I could have never dreamed of. So yeah, I mean, coaching the Canadian national team for the 2026 World Cup is an honor and incredible that I'm able to be in this position.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
Tell you, he may be an American, but Jesse Marsch wearing that Canadian flag like nothing on earth. Fantastic to have him in charge, and appointed to the head coach's job with Canada. His first head coach's job at international level. He was assistant with the US national team under his mentor Bob Bradley in 2010 and 2011. And just speaking so glowingly of Bob Bradley there, and just how he has really shaped him as a player, as a person, as a coach as well. But appointed head coach of Canada just on May 13th, 2024. We're not even anywhere near a year of him being in charge. But, I mean, what a year it has been. He's been in charge of the national team for 13 matches. He's won 5 of them. He's drawn 5 of them, losing just 3. 2 of those losses at Copa America against Argentina. The other loss in his first game in charge, a friendly against the Netherlands in June, still finding his feet with the team then. And just when you look at what he has achieved with the team in the small space of time that he's got it, it's hard not to get carried away with what he's done, what is to come in 2026 as well with this team. Now, as I mentioned, Jesse was doing some media on Wednesday. We all got some one-on-one time with him, and traffic to get out to Burnaby in the afternoon. If you've done that route, you know it's not ideal. So some of the interviews were running a little bit late. So as such, I shared my time with Rob from Daily Hive. So I had my range of questions. We did it in a kind of scrum format. I asked some, Rob asked some. So I put all mine together with my theme there. But we'll bring you the questions that Rob kind of spoke to Jesse about now. Just more modern, up-to-date stuff as well. The team as it stands, looking ahead to the World Cup in 2026. And in particular, the games here in Vancouver. What will it mean to BC Place? Getting the turf pitch in. Can we get some friendlies here? Well, Jesse addressed those and a few other questions. So let's hear some more from Jesse Marsch.
What have the last 8-9 months been like for you? You know, what have you learned about Canada? What have you learned about your roster? What have you learned about all of the challenges it takes to lead a club in this country?
Look, I from my time in Montreal, I knew a bit about Canadian soccer culture. But since I've joined, the first task was just to get things sorted with the national team, right? And so I knew it was a talented group, and I thought I had a very strong opinion that they would be able to adapt quickly to what I wanted. However, they adapted much quicker than I ever could have hoped, right? I was more looking at, a 2-year project. By the end of that 2 years, I think they'll grasp what we're doing. And it took like a week. And then when I was in Montreal before, there was never a real sense of the community coming together to really, help the players and work together as a community to create pathways and development. And so I was a little worried about that. That was another area that I was like, this might take some time. But actually what I found is that the country, I feel like, recognizes, and the spheres of influence in the sport recognize that 2026 is a very important time in our history. And I think everybody really wants to put their best foot forward to try to work together to make it a moment in time where we never look back and where we create a future for the sport in the country that will change the history. So that part's been really, really fun to see.
Given that quick success, what are your goals for this year? What are reachable goals?
Well, look, we have the 2 tournaments, right? And of course we want to win those, right? But we know that there'll be some big challenges. And I've said all along that nothing we do will be about sacrificing the overall progress and development of what will be important for 2026. So if you ask me right now, would I rather play better now or in a year and a half? It's definitely a year and a half. But these lessons will all be important for us in our overall development to make sure that we can stand the test of pressures and expectations, mostly of ourselves, right? Mostly of ourselves for what we want to be in the summer of 2026.
What is the identity of your club?
Well, the DNA we're learning is about aggressiveness and the fearlessness of knowing that if we go after opponents collectively, that we can dominate games because we're physically strong, we're aggressive, we're athletic, and we're intelligent. So, this is, I use the example of hockey in this country. Like, there's a movement for the sport, for hockey as a sport in this country that's about belief that this is our sport, that we're not backing down to anyone, and we're trying to build that into the soccer team as well.
People in the city always want to see the national team more. Is it a challenge to come all the way out to the West Coast?
It's not that as much as it's the surface, right? This is the main issue: is the BC Place surface. And our players aren't too snobbish to play on artificial. They're okay with it, but it's usually about getting the opponents to come. And our lineup, which we will be announcing soon, of opponents for 2025 will be the best ever matches that the national team has played. So, which is important for us, I think, in our lead up to 2026. Now, that being said, there's more efforts to try to think about how to get grass into BC Place, and I know that it was done for Wrexham recently, and we've already visited with BC Place about the potential to do this more often, and then that will be also done for the World Cup. And so, look, and I know, like, I've been to Halifax, Calgary, Winnipeg, and everyone's like, we need to get the national team here more. And I agree, by the way, and I've been calling it the people's team. And part of that is the fact that we have to be in more communities where people can touch, see, and feel their heroes and their players and their team. And in that, Vancouver should be pretty happy overall, because in the World Cup we have 4 home matches here, because we're going to win our group and then we're going to go on and we're going to play 2 more in the knockout phases. So Vancouver should be excited about what 2026 will be.
Were the BC Place the people at BC Place, were they receptive to bringing grass in earlier? Or?
They're excited about doing what they can to help provide the opportunity for us to be here. So if I can't remember the general manager of the stadium, but we met with him for 2 hours one afternoon and with Kevin Blue and I, and talked about how it went with Wrexham, what we thought could be learned from that, and how we could do that for the future, and certainly even leading up to the World Cup, like what that'll mean. So I come to Vancouver every time, and I'm like, it's one of the best cities in the world. So it's not like we don't want to be here. It's just really finding a way to play on grass.
With the Gold Cup having a game here, does there have to be grass for that, or can you have artificial?
So they're putting down grass for that, which I think will be good and important.
Okay. So I've never been to a World Cup, not a men's one anyways.
Okay.
What's it going to be like? What's it going to be like next year, to describe it for people, Canadians that have never experienced this before?
Well, first, we're doing a lot to make sure that I call it the people's team, right? Partly because our players really represent the Canadian community, the multiculturalism, also the mentality and the selflessness and the togetherness is so very uniquely Canadian, and they are so very proud to represent the country, and they are incredible young men, and they deserve to be celebrated and appreciated by this country. But yeah, I mean, look, someone before asked me it'll be the greatest sporting event in Canadian history. I said it'll be the greatest moment in humankind history, the biggest moment ever. And, I think we want to make sure that specifically in the group phase, those first 3 matches, that when the whistle blows, the energy in the country and inside those stadiums makes the team feel invincible. Like, that's the goal. And obviously we're trying to improve it and strengthen it from a pure footballing perspective. But I think from a fandom and from an energy and cultural perspective, this is what will be so great and so important. And I know that everybody's going to feel that.
In a time when hats were hats, I had no Canadian flag, just a sign of Dave and Roger, too scared to purchase larger. But I walk through the Clyde Valley, and the shadow of fiery Jack, power, fear no evil, wrapped in the Canadian flag.
So great stuff from Jesse Marsch there in both of those chats. I mean, we've covered past, present and future with him there, Zach. And it's, as I said, a breath of fresh air. He's just so open. He wants to talk. He loves to talk about football. And from us, from a media point of view or a supporter's point of view, it's great. You've got this access now. You've got a guy that's... I mean, he loves talking about football. And we love talking about football, so it's perfect.
I'm a little surprised at how much I'm enjoying Jesse Marsch as a Canadian men's national team coach. But you're right. Like, when you hear him talk, and I've listened to not just the stuff we just heard, but I've listened to him talk on other shows and other spaces, and yeah, it's encouraging. And I think, again, part of it is it's a carryover. Some of it's a carryover from some of the positives from John Herdman himself. Like, John Herdman was fairly open and honest about a number of things. Now, some people would say, okay, obviously he wasn't open and honest about everything, but in general, part of what he did was just really give us an insight into what was going on. And Jesse Marsch is the same, and you could say maybe even does that even more so. One of the comments, which I know you want to touch on this, one of the comments that I found really interesting and was that open thing, was when you asked him about, or when he was asked about, his plans and the squad and where they're at and all that kind of stuff. And he said, look, I came in with a plan that I thought was going to take me 2 years to implement, get the culture right and playing the right way and all these different things. And he's like, after about a week, the group was ahead of that, or where they needed to be. And most people wouldn't say that, because you might make them, at least their perceptions, look bad, but he was like, yeah, so this is really good, and it helps us to press on even further and all that kind of stuff. And then even again, we talked about this when he did the presser with Axel and Vanny. He's very free, right? So when asked about, is the reason Canada doesn't play more games the BC plays surface, he says, look, our players don't love it, but they're totally willing to play there. It's more getting the quality opponents to play there that's the issue, right? So he said, look, this surface, he says it's not ideal. It's not a deal breaker. And then he, of course, gave the information about, there's going to be grass and all this kind of stuff. So, and it just keeps on going on in a good way. Like I said, we're looking forward to getting down to the Nations League in March, and that seems like it's all still on schedule. It's still happening. And so, yeah, looking forward to that and seeing him, his side, and some of his methods more up close.
I mean, he also mentioned, talking about that 2025 will see the best lineup of opponents the national team has played. So, I mean, that's exciting.
It makes me want to be like, because I also loved how you talked to him about, he started talking about his love for Rudy Fuller. And
yeah, I had to just mention you meeting Franz Beckenbauer and that.
So for me, I was just like, wait, so he's friends with Hansi Flick?
Yeah.
Is he going to get Germany?
I thought that too.
Because
I see you heading to Germany.
Well, yeah, if it's in Germany, that's going to create a huge financial problem for me. If it's in Canada, I need to be there. Like I haven't missed one yet. There's only been 2, mind you, and they were what, 94 and 2003. So they were like 9 years apart. So it's been like over 20 years. Yeah. If that happens, I really need to get there.
Yeah. He also said he'd rather play better in a year and a half than this year in terms of tournaments, and quite right.
Yeah.
Like, use this. It would be great to win the Nations League. It would be great to win the Gold Cup, but use this to get the team as. I'd rather we peak next year than this year.
Again, but it also the way he communicated it, right? He communicated like, yeah, we're going out to win, but not at the detriment of this building that we're doing towards 2026.
Because you have to look at the young guys. You've got to bring in untried talent, because you also don't know, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but you could lose 2 or 3 of your players to injury next year.
Yep.
And if you haven't tried anyone else, it's like, we're scrambling now. Is this the best player to kind of bring in?
Yeah, Tajon's broken leg is a great example of that.
Yeah. Fonzie with hamstring injuries and stuff, it's like he could break down at some point next year.
Speaking of that, I haven't seen this officially anywhere, but I did hear that his injury was his timeline for his injury may have been shifted from 4 to 6 weeks to 4 to 8 weeks, or 6 to 8 weeks, which would definitely put him out of that. Now, again, how much of that is Bayern's posturing of like, hey, we don't really want you to go to California for a week and a half, or however long he'd have to be there, right? Or maybe a week or 10 days. Yeah. Yeah. But again, sorry, I know this is totally silent, but one of the conversations around Canada has been in the last, let's say, 3 years, is yes, they can be incredibly dynamic with Alphonso Davies, but they've also proven that they can get the results they need without him. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I
mean, in some ways, it wouldn't be the worst, because it does let them plan a tournament without him.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you want him. He's the captain, and we know what he can do, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world when you're preparing for next year.
It could be great for someone like Sam, right?
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
A huge opportunity.
I mean, going back to the pitch and the grass at BC Place, preventing games here, I mean, it was refreshing to hear that honesty. And we've known the extra couple of hours here as well is an issue, but it's not the biggest issue. It is the pitch. And as you say, it's getting opponents to play in it. So we'd also heard that they were bringing grass in for the Gold Cup. So I had to just throw that in just to get the official confirmation on record. So yeah, for this game at BC Place in July, I think it's July, might be June, at the Gold Cup, they're going to bring in the grass pitch. Now, when you think of the cost of bringing it in for the Wrexham game and the cost of bringing it in for this, it is disappointing if it's going to just be one and done.
Mm-hmm.
If they can leave it in at all for Whitecaps to get a game in it or whatever, it would make it feel a little bit more worthwhile. But I like that he said BC Place were open to bringing it in the future if they needed to. Yeah. And maybe that will get some opponents here, because once the draw is made as well, there's going to be teams that might want to come and check out the facilities here.
Yep.
So you maybe want to have some friendlies and get the grass in. And we don't know what's happening with the MLS schedule next year. There may not be one before the World Cup. So it'd be have a chance to get that pitch in early, get games on it, whatever. So, I guess we'll see. A couple of other things that he mentioned there that I thought was interesting. He talked about his time in Montreal. And he said the whole community in Montreal wasn't coming together for the best development of players. Now, that was particularly interesting because it's also been a complaint that's been levied here in Vancouver. Everyone's got their own agenda. It's just out for themselves. And in the past, not everyone's pulled in the same direction. And this is one of the reasons that he's doing these workshops and he's doing all these media things, because he wants Canada to know about this team, to know about the players, and he wants everyone to pull in the same direction for next year. And it has to get the team to where they want to be next year.
Again, the preparation for that is all that matters, right? Like, and it's all aspects of that matter. So it's encouraging to hear that they're thinking about so many elements of it. It's not,
And the legacy aspect as well that I asked him, and he wants to see more youth development, money invested in youth for the future. Because what would be tragic is if we do all this for 26, everything's great, the build-up's great, we have a great tournament, we do well at the tournament, however well it is judged as well. And then after it, there's no follow-up. And then all the good work that's been done for the last 8 years has counted for nothing, because that would be absolutely criminal. But I think under the new regime of Canada Soccer, we won't see that. I think this is a new leaf that's turned over in the men, women's, youth side. And I mean, the future's bright. And even more exciting, it is now less than 500 days until the World Cup kicks off. They had the 500 days events in Toronto and Vancouver last week. It's getting closer.
Yeah, you can almost taste it.
Gonna be good. That is it, though, for our national team chat. We're going to turn our attention back to the domestic game for the final part of this episode. Big transfer news for a local lad. We'll come back talking about that after this episode's Britpop song.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's this episode's Britpop song, a band we featured recently in our Britpop section from Oxford in England. They are Supergrass. That was their single released this week on February 6th, 1995. Their second single to be found on the band's debut album I Should Coco, which came out in May 1995, and that was Man Size Rooster. We'll be back with another Britpop song in the next episode. So let's get back to the football chat now. Back talking about the domestic game. Canadian Premier League news of the week. For both the BC-based teams, it's been an action-packed week. For Pacific, new players added. For Vancouver FC, no new players added yet, but they are incoming and imminent, I believe, some announcements. But there has been a departure. And I know it kind of feels like both the Vancouver pro teams are trying their best to see who can get rid of all their players off the roster the quickest. But in this case, this is a move. We've known it's been on the cards for a while. It became official on Friday. Grady McDonnell transferred to Club Bruges' second team in Belgium, Club NXT, leaving Vancouver FC after one season with the Eagles out in Langley. Club NXT paying €235,000, so around 350,000 Canadian dollars. Good job they got this deal done now before the tariffs came into play, otherwise it may not have been worth so much. But $350,000, one of the highest transfers in CPL history. With add-ons and future considerations, I believe there's a 10% sell-on fee for Vancouver FC as well. I also believe they pushed to try and get 20, but my understanding is it was agreed to be 10. But there's going to be add-ons for appearances if he signs for the first team, any future transfers. It could see the whole deal rise to maybe about €350,000, which I think would make it the second best deal in CPL history. And for a player that, I mean, let's be honest, he's hardly been at the club because it's just a year, and in footballing terms, that's nothing. That is a pretty damn good deal in return.
Yeah, and for the life of the league and the life of the club, yeah, I think the way the deal stacks up is good. I mean, obviously the real value in it is if Grady McDonald continues to progress the way he's progressing, then that 10% sell on will be very considerable, Yeah, in one sense, there is amongst the fans, there's this sadness of, we didn't get to see more of him. We didn't get to see him develop even further. But I think this is the right move. Like I said, for the league and for the club. I think the club. Rob Friend has always been about this. Like, we need to provide opportunities for Canadians. We need to provide opportunities for young Canadians, and we need to enable them to have the pathway that players like him and others never had at those ages, right? And so, obviously, like we said before, this can only happen in this way because Grady has an Irish passport that enables him to get in there at this age, right?
Yes.
It's not like Alfonso when he had, was loaned back until he turned 18, essentially, right? So he can go and do this right away. And again, hopefully that helps him progress and move forward. And the thing is, as Vancouver FC has talked about wanting to be a football factory, well, this is kind of the first fruits of them showing that. Now, it can't stop there. This cannot be the only one. Otherwise, you're not a factory. You're just like a one-hit wonder. And but that's the thing. And I think this, in and of itself, I think we'll see ramifications. I think we'll see positive consequences for this. I think.
Because James Cameron is meant to be heading down to Colorado as well. So then you've got two guys that's gone in big moves. So if you're a young player, you're like, oh, they're moving players on and quickly. They're
giving them opportunity, and they're helping them kind of in a different way than Stuart. They're enabling them to live out
their dream,
fulfill their dreams. But no, seriously, I think I don't even think it'll take that long. I think very soon we will start to see some of the fruit of this. Meaning, I think you'll see some young players choose to play for Vancouver FC because they've shown what they can do. They've shown what connections they have. They've shown all these. It's the proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah, so the connections aspect's huge.
Yeah, you can talk a big game and say, hey, this is what we want to do for you. This is where we're hoping you'll get, blah, 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 blah. But it's another thing to say, look what we did. Look what we did with Grady. Look what we helped Grady accomplish. Look at where it's taken Grady. Now, obviously, again, the more Grady does, the more he progresses, the more he improves. If he takes a step into that first team with Bruges, if he moves on and continues to play at a high level and develops and either plays for Ireland or plays for the Canadian national team or whatever is going to happen there, like all of that helps the situation, right? But I literally, Michael, I do not think I don't think it'll be years. I think it'll be months when we're talking about, hey, this next signing for Vancouver FC, how much did Grady play a role? How much does the James Cameron, the hopefully shortly upcoming James Cameron deal, play a role in this? And that's helpful for the club, but the club has to continue to be able to do that. So it's they have to continue to prove that, and so that's the hard part, right? Like you look at all the great things that the three MLS clubs have done in terms of developing academies and all this. They've invested, especially Vancouver and Toronto, Montreal to a different degree in a different way, because of they haven't always had the second team and whatever. But you look at what all three of them have done. They have increased this opportunity for young players. The problem is that it kind of narrows out for those young players, and we've seen so many of them have to go elsewhere, or we've seen players who've been like, look, oh yeah, my opportunity is not going to be in MLS because the coaches can't play young players because they have to win so much, and I'm not at a place where I'm not a difference maker, so I'm not going to get in the team. And so they've gone to college, they've gone on loan, they've left to go on other opportunities. And I think the CPL, part of what they're trying to show, and Vancouver FC, as a specific example of that, is you can develop as a young player. I mean, the young guy at York, I mean, you hope the same thing will come for him.
Well, it's going to have eyes on the league as well.
Totally. Especially,
it shows that there is eyes on the league as well.
Especially if he continues to do better. And that's another thing is this is a massive year. We were. I can't remember if we were talking about now on the podcast or we're talking about this you and I off of, but like we were talking about where are the goals going to come from this year or whatever. But
yeah,
one of the places that we didn't talk about that they need to come from is TJ Tahid. Maybe he can play out and out striker, but maybe not totally an out and out striker. But this is a massive year for his development. Can he get to a place where so that when he is 18 or older, that he can make a similar type progression, right?
I mean, he must look though at Cameron and McDonald moving on though, and be like, well, why was it not me? And get a little bit of itchy feet. It's like, 2 seasons ago I was the shining light, and now these guys have moved on. So hopefully that lights a fire under him.
But I think there's a couple of reasons for that, right? Number one, maybe 3 reasons for it. Number one, I don't. The passport is an issue, right?
Yes.
Number 2, I would say he didn't quite perform as well in his second year as he did in his first year, and that's not abnormal.
Fair. No, that's fair.
And what was the third thing I was going to say?
After we didn't play him.
Well, but that I think was tied into the performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Grady's still just 16. He's not 17 for another couple of weeks. So because I had a couple of folks saying, if it's an Irish passport, so how's he allowed to go to Belgium? It's the EU freedom of movement for workers. That is a huge aspect of it. Anyone that can get a European passport, it just opens so many doors for them.
Yeah.
Grady was actually on the bench for Club NXT in their game on Saturday against RSCA Futures. Didn't come on, but on the bench, ready to come on. Do you know what his shirt number is? I just found that out just now.
Was it? No, that was the year of his contract. I would say 27.
60.
60.
60. He's wearing the number 60.
Is that? I wonder if it's like some clubs they have their younger players all wear higher numbers.
I don't know, because I'm looking at some of the other guys and they're like in the 90s and 72. So he's actually quite low number.
Yeah, but that's
maybe a promising sign.
That's what it is, right? So like a lot of like at Bayern, right? All the youth guys come through and their numbers are 20s, 30s, 40s, right? So that's why, Musiala is 42. That's why Thomas Muller was 25 partly, and I think kept it. Tony Kroos was 39, Schweinsteiger 31, right? But they kept those numbers as a symbol of of pride, right? Of like, hey, I made the first team, but I'm keeping my number from when I was younger. I believe. I might be wrong about all those cases, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, just if anyone wanted to get a Bruce jersey, number 60 on the back. I mean, I had a long chat with someone this week just about this, and was it better for him to go to CPL and then to a second team in Belgium now, or should he have stayed in the Whitecaps? Because the Whitecaps wanted to offer him a WFC2 deal. So he could have played, maybe not every minute, but a lot of minutes last year for WFC2, maybe get first team opportunities. Then this year, may have got a contract, would maybe had fleeting first team opportunities, and maybe next year he could have broken into the Whitecaps first team. That could then have led to a bigger move. So it's weighing it up. The thing, like, it's a different path for different people. You're playing against older men in the CPL. You're playing against actual men, as opposed to a lot of young guys in MLS Next Pro. And no pass going to be right for either player. And like Grady's betting himself that he can jump from one to another and then get the big move by doing well at Bruges or joining the Bruges first team, which would be fantastic. Will he get there quicker than if he was maybe with the Whitecaps first team and then got a move to Europe? We don't know, but I think he's got a good chance of doing it. And different players will look at things differently, and a lot will depend as well on like Jesper Sorensen. If you see Jesper Sorensen as a guy, which he has been from what I'm led to believe, that likes to play youth, maybe folk will think, oh, maybe the Whitecaps could be my path. But if the Whitecaps continue to be a team that isn't bringing through youth players and playing youth players regularly, more are going to look at the CPL or USL or just go overseas right away.
I concur with you that, yeah, there's not, and this is one of the interesting things about football, especially in North America, is I don't think there is one absolute only has to be this way path. I'll also say 2020, looking at things in hindsight is always 2020, right? So I think as Grady, in 3 years from now, we'll look back at, Grady's progression, and it'll be easy to give commentary on, was it the right move at the right time, all that kind of stuff. But in this moment of 2020, I don't think anyone can really argue that the path he's taken hasn't been a good one. I mean, you and I have talked about how many players have gone into that WFC 2 team and things have stalled. Mm-hmm. Or they haven't impressed, or they haven't whatever, and they've lost minutes there, or they're just gone, right? Like I don't see that as good a opportunity as playing in the CPL. And I say that as someone who's obviously highly biased towards the CPL as it being Canada's league. But I think Grady's made the right decision. It's got him to Europe quicker. I think that's helpful for him in terms of progressing his aspirations in terms of playing a high-level national team football, whether that be with Ireland or whether he ends up choosing Canada one day. And I think, the fact that he has gone from the Whitecaps youth system into Vancouver FC's first team, now into Club Bruges' second team, with an eye on the first team and with their eye on having him in the first team, I think his path has been pretty good. Obviously, in time will tell, and we might look at this and say, oh, this is horrible, or injury or other things might derail things. But I think
you never know. He's such a lovely lad. He's such a talent, and just wish him all the very best. That is it now, though, for the football chat. Not it, of course, for the show. We can't finish without this episode's wavelength. And for new listeners, Wavelength is the section of the show where we play a song all about football. Could be by a band, by a singer, by a footballer themselves, or a football team. The only thing that matters is it's a song about football or with a connection to football. So for this episode, I've gone back to 1991, and in light of the Stuart Armstrong transfer, I wanted a song for Sheffield Wednesday. So I've gone for a single that was released ahead of the 1991 League Cup final, which Sheffield Wednesday did in fact win. And it's officially by a band called Big Ron's Barmy Army, named in honour of head coach Ron Atkinson. But it's by a singer-songwriter called Paul Carrick. He's been in a number of bands over the years, including Squeeze, Mike and the Mechanics. So this is his song from 1991. It's a praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Praise and grumble. Praise Wednesday. Praise and grumble.
It's a praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Praise and grumble.
Praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Praise and grumble.
Praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Praise for
Sheffield Wednesday.
Great performance. Praise for
It's a praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Praise and grumble.
Praise Wednesday.
Praise and grumble.
Praise for Sheffield Wednesday.
Last year I nearly cried. My mama said I should be certified. But going down was bad enough. But then going up made it really rough. The way things look really black. Big
So that was Big Ron's Barmy Army, also known as Paul Carrick, with It's a Praise for Sheffield Wednesday. I was going to play a Sheffield United song as a joke, but I thought, but we'll just move on from that. I will tell you a Sheffield Wednesday joke that I do know, though, Zach. It's a comedian I like, Tim Vine. He has a lot of puns. And this, he doesn't have a lot of football puns, but this one is always stuck in my head as one of his jokes. Can you tell me your availability to run a football team in Sheffield? I said, I can't manage Wednesday.
Oh, my.
Yes. And on that note, we'll wrap things up now. Thank you for listening. It's been a bumper show. There's been a lot to talk about. A couple of good interviews thrown in as well. Thank you to Har for joining us. Any final thoughts from you, Zach, just before we wrap this one up?
Two things for me, Michael. I didn't mention it last week, but then there was some stuff around it again this week. Last weekend, of course, was the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. You know, following this end of the Second World War, and so across the Bundesliga there were a number of there was banners. Every team had banners that took pictures with before the matches, and then there were a couple of places where they did displays. I didn't see all of them, but Bayern played away to Freiburg, and Freiburg had a display which I sent you a picture of. Just red placards, and then in the middle a small overhead with what you could make out was the Nazi logo in the background, but a fist punching it. You made that out, right, when I sent it to you?
I didn't see the fist.
Oh, no, there was a fist punching a Nazi, the Nazi logo, and then the words read at the bottom, "Never forgiven," something along the lines of "Never forgiven, never forgotten." And then this week I didn't read every single one, but Bayern had their home game, and Bayern has a connection to like the Jewish people, and even stuff that happened in and around the war. Kurt Landauer was I forget, president or whatever. Anyways, to the Bayern supporters, that end is like the Kurt. I think is the stadium, or that end is I always forget now. The Südkurve is like the Kurt Landauer end, or they refer to maybe the whole place or the place around the stadium. Anyways, but they had all these black placards. The whole bottom of the Südkurve was black placards, and there was word banners, which I can't remember what they said in English, but then there was all these two sticks of all these people who lost their lives during the Holocaust and stuff. So it was just really. Really, really interesting, and really good to see how, even out of something so horrific, how it's the resolve to never see something like that happen again is very strong in Germany. And I think the repentant heart of Germans since then, as a nation, I think is an encouraging thing. Obviously, that doesn't negate the horrible things that obviously happened during World War II. But yeah, and then can I share one other German football thing?
Of course.
I saw a thing that there was. Do you know MSV Duisburg?
No.
The Zebras. They're a red and blue kind of horizontal hooped team. They've dropped horrifically. They're down in the 4th division in Germany. But they had a game against one of their arch rivals. I forget who it is now. But it's one of the red and white teams. Anyways, so in their 4th division game in their nice stadium, I think it was a sellout or close to it, but they had 27,000 people at this 4th division match, and they did like a stadium-wide choreo of their colors and their club name and some other stuff. It was just really, really awesome. It was shared on one of the social media sites that looks at these things, and I was just like, oh, there's a nice 4th division game with 27,000 people. It was just kind of like, okay. It was just like a bright spot in probably what's a difficult time for the faithful in Duisburg.
Yeah, it's amazing. Clubs like that can still get the crowds out. Like in England, there's a few Phoenix teams that have risen from the ashes, and like they in the 7th, 8th tier get a couple of thousand out to to games and things still, which is always amazing. There was over 1,000 at the East Fife game on Saturday, but that was away from home at Elgin. We lost 1-0, but we're still top.
Oh, okay, good. Also, thanks for your German welcome. I've joined the Blue Sky.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, give Zachary AM on Twitter and Blue Sky, AFTN Canada and just AFTN on Twitter and Blue Sky, respectively, for me, and of course YouTube. And you'll find all our podcasts on YouTube now as well. I think we'll wrap this one up. It's been long enough. It feels like this has gone over 3 hours. We'll see when I put it together what I might need to cut out along the way. But until next time, where we should have another one, if maybe 2 interesting feature interviews for you. Till then, thanks for listening. Take care. And mon, the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left, yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
AFTN